You're watching Business Access TV.
Business Access.
Business Access. Business Access.
Business Access.
You are watching Business Access TV.
Business Access TV.
Serious
about business.
Serious about business.
BATV is here to bring you highlights from another staging of PSOJ President's Breakfast Forum happening right here at the Pegasus Hotel. Our guest speaker is Mr. Aubin Hill, CEO of the Economic Growth Council. I'm Andrew Laidley and I'll be your host. Stay with us. Much more after this.
We need to understand that neither progress nor prosperity is possible without, firstly, participative democracy, where our governance rules are shared by everyone and we do not have exclusive control of the mechanisms by which our society is run. We need to understand that unless we find ways, and I'm sure that Senator Hill is going to address this, unless we find ways to engage the 700 or so thousand unattached youth at risk use, we will pay the price of their neglect. We need to understand that unless we rapidly adopt the principles of a knowledge-based society, unless we engage all of our stakeholders in participative enterprise, and unless we build a base for our economy which engages the medium and small enterprises in our economy, in the communities, in the rural parts, we will not have a prosperous, progressive society. We need to understand, and I think the penny has finally dropped, that agriculture is a strong basis for our growth. That to correct the rural drift that is occurring, we need to make agriculture attractive to our young people. We need to engage in technology in our agricultural practices so that we can capture the value added that is so inherent in our Jamaican agricultural products. These are the things that at a high overarching policy level, our government, our private sector, our civil society need to immediately get involved in. We cannot leave the business of government to government. Times have changed, and there's a lot of talk nowadays about the big fish getting out of the net and how the private sector had said that it would name them and shame them. Well, we can't name them and shame them until the government does its job. But you have a commitment from the private sector that if any of its members are indicted for tax evasion or major corruption, they will no longer be members of the private sector, and we will name them and shame them, because it's a new day, it's a new era. We cannot do business as usual.
We go to a break. Stay with us. Much more after this.
Have you seen it? It's BATV Live. Live streams of business news weekdays at 7:30 p.m. Stay on point Thursdays at 8 p.m. with our Business Current Affairs show. And Weekend Business Report Saturdays at 7:30 p.m. Wherever you are. Log on to our Facebook page at Business Access TV or visit our website at batvja.com. Live and at your fingertips. Business Access TV. Serious about business.
Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. Let's join our presenter on stage.
It is because poverty is so brutal that we must achieve robust and sustained economic growth to seriously reduce poverty. The reason why I'm in this is because I don't know any country, whether it's Israel, Singapore, the United States, Finland, that has bettered its people's existence, make them prosperous without sustained economic growth. You have to have growth. I know crime is bad. In order to get growth, we have to have education. I'll talk about that quickly. But without sustained economic growth, your business can't grow. I mean, look at what NCB has done in the past. Without that profitability and growth, you can't expand. That comes from growth. Economic growth is vital. To get economic growth, we have to make sure our people are educated. There is no question that knowledge is the leapfrogging entity that we must have. Knowledge is that leapfrogging entity that we have to use to move Jamaica from poverty to prosperity. Believe me, lots of things we'll have to do. You hear me talk about big projects. But if we don't continue, the sustained growth that I'm talking about has to be sustained by really informed people in the knowledge economy. People will not have options out of poverty unless we grow the economy in a robust and sustained manner. All is not lost. Why I say options? Because what I would like to see is many young people having 3-4 jobs on their desk at any time. For the past, we have had 2 generations of people who really don't know what it is to be able to live in a growing economy where they can have options to work at 3-4 places because people calling them every day to say, look, there's a better job over here. Come and work for us. We don't have that yet in Jamaica. All is not lost. What country is this? If you want a place with great climate all year round, if you want a place where debt to GDP is falling, if you want a place where youth and general employment is going up, if you want a country that is rated top 5 in starting a business in the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business survey, if you want a country with political stability, if you want a country that has well-respected legal system, even if the Chief Justice has to act for a while. We have that too. If you want a country that is near to the biggest market in the world, where are you going to think? That country in the Caribbean is Jamaica. We must go out and talk about it, and that's the truth. We need to fix Jamaica's oil dependency. We cannot grow in a sustained manner when over our back is the sword of Damocles hanging called high oil prices. And we need to move to more renewable energy supplies to help produce sustained economic growth. I'll talk a little bit about that later on. Jagged growth reflects the volatility of oil prices, and so Jamaica needs to find alternative sources of energy, mainly renewable, to smooth out the volatility that comes with fossil fuels, primarily renewable solar, water, and wind. Look at our real GDP growth over a period of time. You can see that it's going up and in the right direction. Not nearly fast enough, which is one thing I have to think about every day, but it has to change, but it's going in the right direction. Again, that's a country to be in the Caribbean. Jamaica's doing business confidence is high. We've been doing it for 15 years, and we're near the peak. Still high, extremely high. I spoke to business people this last quarter, and people are looking to invest. You see cranes all over the place. People are building. Jamaica is the place to be in the Caribbean. Not Bahamas, certainly not poor Barbados, and not Trinidad these days. It's Jamaica. What does the Economic Growth Council do? We look at the growth triangle and big projects. But this was done while I was chairing the Economic Advisory Council for the now Prime Minister, then leader of the opposition. I look at where we have to find economic growth and job creation. It's not economic growth for 10 big businessmen and big people who own things. It's economic growth and job creation for people who must spend money and look after them family and build Jamaica. And another 6 people can build Jamaica. So we want economic growth and job creation. So where you find it? Water is key. And this was before I was appointed to both NWC and NIC chairman. Maybe there was a reason that came out of that. Water is vital. You can't build a 30 or 60-story building on the Corniche, which I'm going to talk about, that Howard mentioned, downtown Kingston, and have water go up there for people to drink, and water to take down the waste and properly stored. Water is key. All I want who are build developments. You can't build a development until NWC give you the approval. And anytime the approval take long, write me an email. It's orbin.hill@gmail.com. We are enablers. Me give you my email, no hide. My telephone number is 399-1265. In a change since me come back to Jamaica. Take it and call me. Nobody abuses it. They call me when they have a reason. We must change Jamaica that enablers become enablers. So we look at water, vital. You look at housing. Housing I have as a proxy there for construction. And look at energy. What I'm saying is that we should have at least 2 renewable items that is a requirement for every building that's above 4 square foot. That means all your toilet. Because I know all I want to have big toilet and a big house. If you build a toilet 4 foot square or more, you must have 2 renewables on it. Renewable water and renewable energy. I grew up in St. Elizabeth where my father had a tank, so I converted the 40,000-gallon tank into what is now part of my country home. I built another 10,000 under the house, and all my roof is gutted. And we can have water till you're tired when a little rain comes. So you must have renewable water. So Mr. Gore, who was a board member of the EGC, when you want to build 3,500 house, the law should say that Mr. Gore and everybody else and me should have 2 renewable on it by law. You must have renewable energy as well on it, because sunshine is our oil. That oil is in Saudi Arabia. We waste it. Moving on, under Economic Growth Council, the 3 things I mentioned, energy, water, and housing in the middle, but there are 2 big ones. Remember I mentioned you go somewhere and you have to have 10 forms. First of all, why is it not soft? Why is it not digitized? And why is it not only 1? If you guys don't demand it at your age, when are we going to get it? Demand it. We need to move to agro-processing. And PSOJ are going to talk to you about that quickly, because you must invest in that. Unless we process tomatoes and mangoes, they spoil. The hotels then have to go and import them because we don't have them processed. And then the third one, the storage. You must have agricultural storage to make sure this country changes. So that's why agriculture and government efficiency are tacked on to the 2 main things. And the PSOJ must lead that. So what is the EGC about? We're on the enablers side, right at the top there, taking front and lead. There are growth enablers. You have the National Contracts Commission, OUR, you have Rural Agricultural Development, Jamaica JAMPRO, National Water Commission. Of course, you have Jamaica Customs, NEPA. Very critical. Local government. all important. The EGC will focus on enabling big projects, which will have a positive move on the economic growth needle. We have to have the MSMEs, encourage them because they employ a lot of people. Big companies tend to rationalize, that's a nice word for cutting off people out of their employment. Of course, people like me have never used that term in my life. Sure. So I'm saying MSMEs are the ones that employ, but you have to have big projects.
We take our final break, but don't go anywhere. We have more highlights for you after this.
Violence against women is a violation of human rights. Its impact ranges from immediate to long-term physical, mental, and sexual consequences, sometimes resulting in death. It negatively impacts women's general well-being and can prevent us from fully participating in society. Be a better human being. No more violence against women. No more.
Cameo brings the creative industries to life, highlighting creatives in different fields each week. Art.
My life surrounds art. I breathe, I eat art.
Fashion. Food.
Without a customer, we're nothing but four walls.
Music. Film. Cameo, only on Business Access TV.
Hi, my name is Diane Plummer and I'm the Managing Director for Your True Shade. So the program that I participated in was Creating Wealth, and it would give viewers an idea of the different processes in Your True Shade, taking the products from the raw materials to the production and then finally to the consumer. Being on Business Access TV has definitely impacted my business because since the feature was aired, I got a lot of calls asking about the products, where they can get products, and asking additional information as well. Another thing that I did was to actually link the video to my social media posts so that persons can actually learn more about the brand. So for persons considering BATV, I would definitely recommend it because you will definitely see the payoff for it. Persons will definitely be interested in finding out more about you as well as your brand.
Thanks for staying with us, and if you're just tuning in, we're here at the PSOJ President's Breakfast Forum. Now for more highlights. Talk to me a little bit about some of the most salient points in your presentation here this morning.
Well, the first thing is that the EGC and other government entities like NEPA, the local government, OUR, are essentially enablers. We do not do economic growth. We enable, we facilitate, we advocate for economic growth, but we do that, we do the enabling to the private sector players who are the real implementers of economic growth. So it's a dichotomy. You have to have on the one side the government enablers, and on the other side the investors, the managers who make economic growth happen. When you get that meshing easily and smoothly, then we will see much better and much more sustained economic growth, which is our aim. The other thing that we talked about is that we have to make sure that investors in Jamaica really support Jamaican businesses. As I use the example, we have 65 solar companies in Jamaica, and yet you see a lot of solar business going to overseas companies that provide employment in their country. And we have 65 young companies that really, a bit between them, really compete and do good work. And that's just one area. We have maybe 32 or 40 engineering companies. Again, they're looking for work, but work goes somewhere else. We need to make sure that the money that Jamaican companies earn in Jamaica is spent with Jamaicans and Jamaican companies. The other point, and then of course we must fix downtown Kingston if we're going to fix Jamaica. It's the Corniche the finest corniche you have in the Caribbean, one of the best in the world, and we've allowed it to become a rundown place that we need to fix. And I know Prime Minister Andrew Holness is committed to fixing downtown, and so am I. As I mentioned, in my other life at NCB, I collected $65 million that was supposed to be matched by the government of the time. It was matched, the money's gone, but this time that must not happen. I know it's one of Prime Minister's major development points, and I expect to see it happen under the Andrew Holness administration.
During your presentation, you were really tugging at firms to come forward and to indicate when they're having difficulties in starting their business or whatever it may be in line with their business. What mechanisms would you say are in place to really facilitate that?
What will happen is that people have to go various places for approvals. They should go through the process. My point was that the Economic Growth Council is there as an enabler. When you hit something that is unusual or unusually difficult, give us a call. We will try and find a way. We will find a way to work with whoever is supposed to be the enabler to help them become better enablers. Sometimes they need more information, sometimes they need encouragement, sometimes we can provide some facilitation. Whatever it is that is necessary, we will try and find to make sure it works, because we have to grow the economy. And of course, the next point I talked about is that there are tremendous opportunities in agro-processing, in agro-storage, and in straight-up farming, which businessmen in Jamaica are not yet taking up, but some have started to.
Talk to me a little bit about this morning's event.
Well, the breakfast, you know, we have it every other month, and it is the President's Breakfast Forum, and it is our way of inviting our members to network and to have a speaker who will speak on matters that are of importance to them. This time, we thought we would have a local person to give us another perspective on the same theme of growth, because we recognize that our country is really on a growth path. A number of the issues, the economic sort of macro issues, are now moving in the right direction. They need to move further, but I think we have bended the corner. And so we are on a path. I think in terms of the PSOJ, our role becomes even more important. We are an advocate organization for businesses, and we need to remember that businesses are large and small. We have on our executive Donovan Wignall, who you might have heard of in the presentation, who is president of the MSME Association, so he's on our executive. The Small Business Association of Jamaica is also a member, and so we want to do a lot to promote businesses, small and large.
Talk to me about the trajectory you see small and medium-sized enterprises taking this year.
Well, definitely if the small and medium-sized enterprises take advantage of the opportunities that are presented, then certainly the trajectory would certainly be going up. I think now is as great a time as any for MSMEs to invest. I think interest rates have been trending down, not low enough from my taste, but it definitely has been trending down. We see opportunities that are being provided in the sector of tourism. Small entrepreneurs now can invest in a mortgage and definitely go into Airbnb, the Airbnb business. I see other small construction companies getting into the whole business of construction because of the low mortgage rates. Definitely there are people investing in automobile dealership, buying and selling cars, but definitely in the presentation a while ago, Mr. Aubin Hill mentioned agriculture. Now, people in the MSME sector that are participating in agriculture, we are now looking at a new era where agriculture needs to be modernized. So definitely, as far as agro-processing is concerned, while we might not have the financial wherewithal to invest in huge processing projects, I definitely see some opportunity where once once the goods are produced, the tomatoes, the onions, etc., we can probably look to have those processed, whether it's for the export market, whether it's for the tourism market, but definitely there's an opportunity there. An agro-processing center per se is a huge project, and definitely for bigger businesses, we see where that definitely is an opportunity for them. And certainly, we will see where that will be linked into the smaller business producing and storing and processing in those facilities. So definitely, opportunities abound. We just now have to be creative, innovative in what we do. The IT sector definitely, with the production of apps, etc. Transportation, logistics, there are opportunities. So if you have the mindset that, things are changing, the future is yours, definitely you can be a big part of the change that is taking place now and, benefit financially, of course.
For me, it's about downtown and it's about agriculture. If we can refurbish the Carnation Market, get stakeholder buy-in, get the communities in and around the market to generate interest and to be employed and to put aside the illegal activities, because the market can sustain us all. Right? And if we can clean up downtown Kingston, that is a really, really important point. There is a project called the Downtown Kingston Restoration Project. That is the project that should be emphasized now because it's a game changer. If we combine that with putting technology into agriculture and processing our agricultural products, I think you will see real and genuine growth in Jamaica.
One of the points that Mr. Hill spoke about was tugging at the PSOJ to really speak up when the ease of doing business is not going the way it ought to. Among your members, how often do you see stuff like that coming forth?
Our membership are established business people to a large extent, and that's one of the reasons why we have reached out to the MSME Alliance and to the Small Business Association, because we want to help to use ourselves as a platform for them, because that's where most of the difficulty arises. You're not going to get the big companies having issues with our bureaucracy to a great extent. But what we're trying to do is to get the smaller businesses to be vocal and to come to us. And to an extent, that has not succeeded as well as it should, but this new administration at the PSOJ is reaching out to them to try and get them to come in and be vocal.
That brings us to the end of our coverage of the PSOJ President's Breakfast Forum. Until next time, I'm Andrew Laidley. Stay tuned to Business Access TV, serious about business.
It's season 12, and Wealth Magazine Business Access is here to keep you business savvy. With an impressive mix of some of Jamaica's most inspiring business moguls, we continue to keep Jamaica informed, empowered, and ready to dominate. Tune in Sundays at 5 p.m. only on BATV.
You're watching
Business Access.
Business Access.
Business Access. Business Access TV.
Serious about business.
Your business matters. Business Access TV offers you the most innovative and effective advertising solution for your business, specializing in B2B sales, cost-effective solutions, the customers you want, the repetition you need. No matter the size and nature of your company, your business matters. Call us at 876-618-2870 or email us at sales@batvja.com. Business Access TV, serious about business.
Every day you wake up, you have another opportunity to make this little island better, safer, a place where we all can be proud to call home. It's time we all recognize that every little thing we do has an impact on the Jamaica we live in now and the country we're leaving for our children. So promise me this, promise yourself this: no more will we tolerate criminals, even if it's our relatives. Tell them they're doing something wrong. Tell them to stop. Tell them no more robbing our children of the Jamaica they deserve. Tell them no more crime.
It's the start of a new month and one that celebrates our history as a people and country. October is Heritage Month, so stay tuned throughout the period for features on our heroes, significant places and cultural experiences that make us stand out as a people. Hello, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Welcome.
Jamaica will host the second Tourism Resilience Summit of the Americas on October 9 and 10. The two-day summit seeks to explore tourism climatic resilience initiatives from around the world. This game-changing summit is being held under the theme, Building Tourism Resilience for Sustainable Futures. Global and regional speakers will share best practices on how to recover from man-made and natural tourism disruptions. That's the second Tourism Resilience Summit of the Americas on October 9 and 10 at the University of the West Indies Regional Headquarters in Kingston, Jamaica. The event is open to the public.
Good day, I'm Theodore Henry, and this is your JIS News for Thursday, October 3. Prime Minister Andrew Holness has expressed confidence in the country's ability to satisfy 50% of its energy needs using renewable sources by 2030. Mr. Holness's certainty was buoyed by Wednesday's opening of the Paradise Park Solar Farm in Savannah-Lamar, Westmoreland. With 156,000 solar panels, the farm has the capacity to supply 37 megawatts of electricity to the national grid. Mr. Holness used the opening to call for greater investments in clean energy projects on the island.
This is a signal to investors. It's a signal to the OUR. It's a signal to JPS. It's a signal to our financial market. It is a signal to the citizens of the country that your government is doing everything it can to ensure that we are protecting our own environment by using cleaner energy, but that we are also being good public citizens by ensuring that this global public good called the climate is protected.
17% of the country's electricity comes from wind, solar, and hydropower. The Paradise Park Solar Farm was built at a cost of $8.6 billion through a partnership involving the Development Bank of Jamaica, Eight Rivers Energy Company, and French company Neonen. The Eight Rivers Energy Company meanwhile donated $4 million to assist the Savannah-Lamar Hospital provide services to the community. The government and the opposition are working to reach a consensus on the island's approach to tackling crime. The agreement will be similar to the collaborative approach taken with the recently finalized economic program with the International Monetary Fund. Giving the update in Parliament Tuesday, Prime Minister Andrew Holness said work began in August through the National Partnership Council.
Since then, I would say significant work has been done, and the mechanism is starting to be put in place, and I will be meeting with the leader of the opposition. We will hopefully reach some consensus as to how we should move forward. And I think Jamaica will look at us in a far better light.
An early warning cyber threat system is now being tested by the Jamaica Cyber Incident Response Team, JA-CERT. Aimed at improving the island's cybersecurity infrastructure, the system will identify and neutralize cyber threats.
As government and as a government entity, we are working to ensure that we have that robust framework to protect our country, our people's data from cyber criminals.
Head of JA-CERT, Dr. Munifia Hewling, was speaking at the opening of a two-day cybersecurity and public safety symposium Monday. Staged by the Ministry of Science, Energy and Technology, the event saw a number of local, regional, and international cyber specialists sharing expertise in the sector. In the meantime, Dr. Hewling revealed that the Honeypot computer security system was being set up in government agencies island-wide to identify cyber threats. Honeypot is a computer security mechanism set to detect and deflect, or in some cases counteract, attempts at unauthorized use of information systems. In other news, Jamaica is on track to establish a phytomedicine and medical cannabis institute. Phytomedicine is a plant-based traditional medicinal practice which utilizes various plant materials in preventative and therapeutic processes. In making the announcement, Industry and Commerce Minister Audley Shaw says the institute is part of a research partnership with Harvard International Phytomedicine and Medical Cannabis Institute. Minister Shaw says the partnership will be coordinated to ensure there is economic gain for all stakeholders, particularly farmers and traditional herbalists.
Jamaica was chosen to be a part of the International Phytomedicine and Medicinal Institute with the technology and research of Harvard and the science of all herbs will take plant-based medicine and extracts to a new dimension.
Minister Shaw was speaking at a press conference on Tuesday at the ministry's office on Hope Road. Through the partnership, Jamaica's vast botanical resources and their natural medicinal properties will be explored to develop new nutraceutical and pharmaceutical products. Government has donated a 1,000-gallon water tank to the Caribbean Christian Center for the Deaf to assist with the water shortage at the facility. Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Pernell Charles Jr., says the school will be getting 2 additional 200-gallon water tanks soon. Minister Charles also told the gathering that the National Water Commission would be carrying out an assessment of the school's water supply system. Sensitization sessions on water conservation will also be conducted with the students.
We also know that this area is challenged, not just the school. And so we are working to implement the immediate measures to give as much relief as possible. And our long-term goal is to develop a diversified and more resilient system. So all Jamaicans that are within our utility service will get consistent delivery of water.
And finally, the National Water Commission has relaxed its water restriction measures in the corporate area. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says the decision follows an increase in rainfall and water levels at the corporate area's 2 main water supply systems. Water levels at the Hermitage Dam is currently at 54%, while the Mona Dam is at 72% of capacity.
I think the level of frustration that the public is experiencing is tremendously high, and it would be not easy to explain to people why we're having rain and then they still can't get water. So we will have to relax, but we still are very cautious. So we're not going to just totally abandon all our conservation methods, but we will relax so that people can get water now.
Mr. Holness was speaking in Parliament Tuesday. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Theodore Henry. Thanks for watching.
Businesses operating within parishes under the state of emergency, your closing time has been extended. In St. Catherine and Clarendon, clubs, fast food restaurants, petrol stations, and establishments operating under a tavern license, your opening hours are 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. For supermarkets, grocery shops, haberdasheries, and other businesses, opening hours are 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. In Westmoreland, Hanover, and St. James, business closing time is between 10 p.m. and midnight.
It's time to get an update from the National Works Agency on roadworks in the corporate area. We also talk traffic management with the Jamaica Constabulary Force.
Hello and welcome to OPM Connect, the program that helps you understand the activities and programs of the government. I'm Naomi Francis. Today we speak traffic management. What is being done to ease traffic congestion in the corporate area, and how do we create greater efficiencies in traffic flow? We're pleased to be joined by Assistant Commissioner of Police Dr. Kevin Blake, and he's the head of the Constabulary's Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch, as well as the Planning, Research and Development Branch. And we also have Mr. Stephen Shaw, the Manager of Communication and Customer Services at the National Works Agency. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today on OPM Connect. Traffic management, a very, very passionate discussion taking place across the country now. First of all, I want to get an understanding of about how many motorists, especially in the corporate area, use the roads on a daily basis, Mr. Shaw.
I can tell you about the major corridors.
Yes.
The Mandela Highway, for example, is the corridor that has the most traffic, some 80,000 vehicles. The Constant Spring Road has about 45,000 vehicles. And between these two corridors, we would have the bulk of the motor vehicles in the corporate area. Of course, you have vehicles being distributed along Washington Boulevard, along Hagley Park Road, along Marcus Garvey Drive. But these two that I mentioned earlier are by far the ones that you will see the most vehicles on a daily basis.
Wow. So many times we hear and we feel and see it as every single motorist who travel on the nation's street, whether it's in the corporate area or rural towns, there is a sense that, boy, we're spending just too much time in the traffic. So ACP, as a new man at PSTEB, help us understand what are the major issues in your mind in terms of dealing with traffic management, and how do you plan about improving it?
Okay, all right, thank you, and thank you for having me. Well, a lot of the issues in the past have been caused by the type of roads that we have, and also the type of behavior that we see operating on the road. I'm very heartened and happy to see the extensive road work that is taking place now, because that has and will alleviate a lot of the challenges. When you have resources, when you have the number of vehicles that was quoted by Mr. Shaw, our infrastructure has to be able to accommodate that. And coupled with that, what makes it even more difficult is when persons do not use the roadway as is envisioned. And so that was our major challenge. So we're getting better roads now. We have dual carriage. We have medians in the road that prevent persons from driving there on the wrong side of the road. And so the construction, the engineering of the infrastructure has helped us somewhat in securing compliance on the road and safer road usage. It helps the police also, because these are some areas and some things that police would have to be significantly concerned about and stuff. So some of that challenge is there, has been alleviated, or is being alleviated from the road construction that is taking place.
That's for the major areas, the corporate area, for example, and some of the major towns where that kind of work is taking place.
Right. We still, in areas where we don't have that, we still have challenge. We still have to place police there. Unfortunately, our society is one where you have to place police almost everywhere in order to ensure compliance, or even engineering compliance in the infrastructure. It is not for the larger motoring public. It's usually for persons who choose not to abide by the rules of the road. But Jamaica is different. We have so many persons who choose to disobey the road code. So it becomes a little more challenging for us as a society. However, there is going to be congestion because it is a function of the number of vehicles and the capacity of our infrastructure. And so we're going to have congestion. I think what is important to people and what we aim to do, even with that, is to ensure that there is smooth flow, that we don't have blocked intersections, that we don't have people undertaking, that we don't have persons endangering others whilst they try to safely commute to where they want to go.
We really have to ask ACP, because motorists, pedestrians, everybody see breaches on a daily, hourly, even minutely basis on the streets, and people feel like nothing is being done. You are now at the helm of PSTEB. What are those changes that you intend to bring about to ensure that, one, there's not just a cultural change and people think it, but also they will see the penalties coming as well?
All right. First of all, I hate to sound like a scratch record, but go back to the construction of the roadway. It gives us some breathing space.
Yes.
And if you notice, we're doing some more enforcement. Enforcement has ramped up somewhat. As much as you see us out there on the street at intersections, there are enforcement. In terms of change in behavior and dealing with this situation, there are several things that we're doing. One of the first thing is to establish the type of synergy and alliance with other agencies that have part of the responsibility for that behavioral change on the road. And so when you look at, for example, each year we have an average of 500,000 tickets issued. 500,000 tickets.
500,000
Yes,
tickets.
on average. That is 500,000 times enforcement took place. It is not so much to come here and tell you that, okay, we're going to be ramping up and we're going to be enforcing more and stuff like that. All the nice things that people want to hear. Of course, we're going to do all of that. But we also understand that we have a responsibility as an organization. We take ownership for this. But we also recognize that there are other agencies that have to play their part. And I've already started the dialogue. Stephen and I think I call Stephen more often than anybody else. We speak every single day, almost every single day. I've had dialogue with the Transport Authority. I've had dialogue with Dr. Lucian Jones. So we look at everywhere and see how all of us can come together.
Stephen, an update on roadworks, not just in the corporate area in terms of completion, but across the country for the major road areas.
We have about 5 legacy projects that we
Yes.
are executing, all with the exception of Camp Road are in a significant state of being completed.
So we're talking about Constant Spring Road.
Constant Spring Road, Hagley Park Road, Mandela Highway, Ferris to Macfield over in
Westmoreland,
and there's Camp Road.
Yes.
Now, we believe that by the end of October, we'll be in a very good place, because by that time, the second lift of asphalt should be on all these roads, and that will give the motoring public a significant amount of ease. We also believe that by that time, intersections that we are going to be signalizing, meaning putting up new signals, those should also be up. Sidewalk infrastructure should be significantly in. And what should be outstanding at that time would be minor things that won't cause persons to lose any time at work,
yes,
so to speak, or won't cause any undue hardship for persons wishing to walk along the road. And we believe that once we're able to accomplish these, then the public will start to see, well, not start, they will see the full gamut of the benefits that we set ourselves to provide them when we started all of these projects.
Have to squeeze this one in terms of pedestrian crossings and sidewalks especially. You alluded to it a while ago, but just to reassure the public that those that have not been installed certainly will be.
All the areas that we are actually pushing ahead with the installation of sidewalks. Where persons may see outstanding sidewalks now is where some outstanding work is to be done, either by way of cables to be run by the telecommunication companies, or there are connections to be made by the Water Commission to provide homes and businesses with water onto the new system, because there are new systems, water systems and sewer systems along these roads as well. And so you have to then abandon the old, put people on the new, and ensure that they get the full benefits, maximum benefits from the capital expenditure that the government has undertaken.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. We really appreciate it, and continue doing the good work that you do. And that's it for another edition of OPM Connect. Join us next week as we have another interesting discussion.
The Jamaica Constabulary Force's Crime and Violence Data Bank is being improved with support from the Jamaica Social Investment Fund. This partnership will ensure accuracy in data collection, entry, and dissemination.
The Jamaica Social Investment Fund, JSIF, is helping to build safer communities through the Jamaica Crime Observatory Enhancement Project. Established in 2011, the Jamaica Crime Observatory is a web-based crime and violence data bank hosted by the Ministry of National Security.
The project is seeking to enhance the capacity of the Ministry of National Security, the Jamaica Constabulary Force, and a number of other stakeholders in their response to data collection, data entry, data dissemination, and data analysis. This is a World Bank funded initiative. It is valued at 44 million Jamaican dollars.
The upgrade to the system falls under JSIF's Integrated Community Development Project ICDP. The aim of the ICDP is to improve basic infrastructure and social services delivered to 18 targeted at-risk communities. JSIF seeks to use data from the Crime Observatory to inform the planning of social and technical interventions to be implemented in these communities. To ensure a concerted approach towards crime prevention and management, a number of government entities supply statistics to the Crime Observatory. These include the Jamaica Constabulary Force, the Ministry of Health, the Registrar General's Department, and the Institute of Forensic Science and Legal Medicine.
We collect data from murder statistics to sexual offenses, suicide, traffic fatalities, hospital data, fatal shootings for various parishes in Jamaica.
The Jamaica Constabulary Force, JCF, is the primary source of data for the observatory. Under the project, the Statistics and Information Management Unit of the JCF has received handheld GPS devices to assist in increasing the accuracy of data collected.
From the perspective of the crime scene, the forensic crime scene analysts utilize the handheld devices provided by the Jamaica Social Investment Fund to map the exact location of each crime. The devices are also able to take photographs of the environment within which the crime occur. With that information, the analysts are able to get a better context within which the crime occur. And that has been very significant in our analysis process.
In addition, the gadget also assists us to be able to do analysis, temporal analysis of the time crime takes place. If you plot those information on a graph, you can see over a period of time, you can be able to determine trend, so you can do trend analysis.
As part of the JSIF funding, the unit also received laptops, desktop computers, firewall devices, servers, UPS devices, and software packages to improve the efficiency of processing the data collected.
It allows us to provide data to the Crime Observatory in a much faster turnaround time than the monthly cycle that we usually provide the data to the Crime Observatory.
Additionally, 2 data entry clerks have been employed by the unit to assist with the timely input of information into the system. The Ministry of National Security will also receive funding to engage the services of a crime analyst.
What the engagement of the crime analyst will do is that they will help with better forecasting and predicting utilizing data which is in the Crime Observatory.
The project, which started in 2017, will also fund the training of 7 Ministry of National Security staff and 8 persons from the Jamaica Constabulary Force in the areas of system maintenance, spatial analysis, and the use of ArcGIS software technology. Improvements to the Jamaica Crime Observatory are essential to various stakeholders in the formulation of policies and strategies to keep Jamaicans safe.
What the Crime Observatory is able to do is provide us with good, timely, accurate data for us able to craft our policies, and from crafting our policies we're able to then craft acceptable strategies to help with the crime and violence and citizen security.
With geographic information system, we can actually pinpoint the exact location of a crime. We can pinpoint the area, such as a shop or a bar, that is likely to be affected by a particular type of crime, which means that we can practice preventative policing. We can actually preempt what is likely to take place, put in strategy in order to prevent those occurrences.
Through the Jamaica Crime Observatory Enhancement Project, the Jamaica Social Investment Fund is enhancing the efficient collection and analysis of crime and violence statistics, building on the capacity of the government to better plan crime-fighting strategies.
The National Health Fund NHF has increased its subsidy for medication for children with NHF cards by 100%. Parents and caregivers, as of September 1, 2016, you should save more when purchasing pharmaceuticals for NHF beneficiaries 0 to 18 years old. Now you'll pay even less than 20% out of pocket when you purchase medication to keep your child healthy.
We feel that children with chronic illnesses are a vulnerable group in society. And also because we know that it is tough on parents, some of whom have more than one child under our program with chronic illnesses, to pay for their medication so that they can live useful lives. The cost of this program is estimated to be about $70 million per year, and that takes into account the fact that we think that more and more parents will register their children because of the increased benefits.
It will cost the NHF $44 million to provide this extra benefit. Through this increased spending, the fund is broadening access to vital medication for approximately 12,000 NHF beneficiaries currently enrolled in the program. A wide range of conditions are covered, including arthritis, asthma, diabetes, epilepsy, glaucoma, sickle cell, hypertension, ischemic heart disease, and psychosis. You'll save big when you present your child's NHF card at any pharmacy to fill his or her prescription. There's no need for a new card. All changes will be automatically applied. However, if you don't have one, simply fill out the application form available at NHF offices, pharmacies, or doctor's offices. Your child must have a TRN and a doctor must complete the form to indicate what medical condition exists. Once that's done, go ahead and submit the completed document to the NHF either in person or by mail.
My daughter was diagnosed with epilepsy about 6 months ago. Since then, she's been on medication, which usually costs about $10,000 per month. Since I've got my NHF card, I pay about $1,200 a month for medication. First month when I had to pay $10,000, I had to buy the medication every week because I couldn't buy it all at once. So it really does help. It helps and it saves a lot. I think that's a great benefit for any parent that even has a child with another critical illness.
It will help other parents who having a difficult times with children with serious illness. I would suggest for them to sign up for an NHF. They will definitely benefit from it because I have benefit with my son. My child is asthmatic, so I signed up for it and I'm now paying $106. Normally I would have paid $5,000 and trust me, it has taken a lot of stress out of me.
The National Health Fund, taking a healthy interest in you. For more information on the fund and related benefits, call 906-1106 or visit the NHF's website, nhf.org.jm.
As we close today's show, here's a reminder to stay connected via our website, jis.gov.jm. And while you're online, send your feedback to Jamaica Magazine at jis.gov.jm or via tweet at JIS News. On behalf of the entire production crew, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Do take care.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.
You're watching Business Access TV.
Business Access. Business Access. Business Access.
Business Access.
You are watching Business Access TV.
Business Access TV.
Serious
about business.
Serious about business.
The ICAJ hosts their annual business conference here at the Jamaica Pegasus under the theme Megatrends 3.0, Changing Times, Changing Strategies. I'm your host, Mita Prasad Webb. Please stay tuned for highlights.
The world is changing. We're talking about this everywhere I go. The pace of change is unprecedented. And so, yes, I know we're accountants, but our acumen on technology, we're going to have to beef it up. We're going to have to know about big data, cloud, cybersecurity, virtual reality. This is not an environment of tomorrow where you can say, well, I'm just a numbers person. Those days are over. And so today, what we're talking about is that technology makes things a little more seamless. So we always talk about what happened with Blockbuster. We talk about what happened with Kodak. These are case studies that'll be around for years and years. But unfortunately, there are some iconic companies that will be case studies as well. It'll be Radio Shack, might be Yahoo, it might be Toys R Us, it might be Borders. There are companies that I grew up with that I thought would always be here, and yet they're gone. So the question is, will you be here in 3 to 5 years? Will your company be here in 3 to 5 years? And what are you doing about it today to make sure that you will be? So when we talk about the world, I meet people who will say, well, Kimberly, I'm just here in my bubble. No one's going to touch it here. Guess what? I was here before I was here. I've been communicating with your team at the Institute of Chartered Jamaican Accountants for probably close to 6 to 7 months. And so if that is the case, that means that just me not physically being here isn't something you're just like, oh, she's not here, I shouldn't be worried. You should be worried because technology means we're only one click away. And so as Jamaica grows and the economy grows, what you don't want is for companies to bring in other accountants. Because you are the supply, you are the experts, you are the professionals. When they're looking for someone to build a new practice area or to lead a new division, they should be here with the Jamaican accountants. It shouldn't be, oh, we got to pull someone else from the US or another island or here or there. Now, that could be what they want to do, but they shouldn't have to do. And so when we talk about change and what does that mean, there's good news and bad news. The good news is, as a profession, we're purposeful, we're data-driven, we don't like ambiguity. We're really good at giving you answers. We're organized. We like checklists because most of us prefer to go down checklists. We're compliant. We make sure we're following the rules. We're rule followers. We're all of those things. And no matter where I go, there are some things about us that are the same no matter where I go. And that's the good news. The bad news is that we're purposeful, we're data-driven, we don't like uncertainty. Because in a time where you have to be innovative, in a time where you need ideas that are so out there that someone says, that'll never work. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the ideas that people would say would never work. Because what I know is this, surely they told Larry Ellison that. Surely they probably told Bill Gates that. Surely they told Mark Zuckerberg that. Surely they told any one of the leaders who are here today and are billionaires, they said that'll never work. That's the innovation that we have to open up our minds and hearts to. And that's what we have to recognize in the megatrend environment of changing times. Recognizing that what we do and how we do it has to evolve and change. So we've got some trends. And I'll just give a couple of things that I do to stay abreast of everything. And I know it's hard because you're like, Kimberly, it's so much. I've got kids, I've got work, I've got elderly care, parents, that, elder care I need to do. I get it. It is busy. But somehow you've got to figure out how to source the information when you need it. Now, for me, I have a lot of different data sources. I've got FASB alerts, SEC, the Journal of Accountancy, the Maryland Statement. I've got the Fortune, Forbes, Wall Street Journal, all of these different alerts coming into my phone and into my email so that I'll know what's going on in the business world around me. Because you can't ask really good questions. You can't manage risk if you're isolated. That's why understanding the trends around you are so important, because you're going to miss something if you don't pay attention. And so, yes, you've got to pay attention to Brexit. You've got to pay attention to what's going on in Venezuela and geopolitical instability. Your companies could be multinational, and there's opportunities for you to go and work in different offices. Yes, you have to pay attention to what's going on in the financial world as it relates to who's able to pay their bills and who's going to bankrupt on their obligations, and who, with the tariffs that are currently, that argument that's going back and forth. You have to have enough awareness to know where to go. You don't have to memorize it, but you do need to say, when I need it, where can I go find it? Get that source in your environment. And then from a regulatory complexity perspective, the regulations are changing. There's an opportunity for you to add feedback. I'm sure the Institute would, lobby a position on your behalf if they knew that there was a position. You have to be active participants in the environment that we're in. And I know in Maryland, they'll ask us to write letters. They'll ask us to show up. Hopefully you're showing up and you're participating in your own environment and being an advocate for the profession. And then, of course, the two areas I left were technology and workforce changes. From a technology perspective, we know that in today's world, we've got the Internet of Things. We've got refrigerators that can call out for soda. When you walk in a grocery store, your phone starts beeping with aisle 9, aisle 10. We know that when I grew up, it was the Jetsons, and having a robot in your home was like a thing of unbelievable. It just wouldn't happen. And yet, if I say the wrong word, Google is like, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. And isn't that nerve-wracking a little bit, right? That they would even wake up to know that you said some word. The world is changing. And so even as we talk about workforce changes, a lot of those workforce changes are coming from our generational differences. Our Zs, born typically in the late 1990s and the 2000s, and our millennial colleagues born in 1980 to about late 90s, they don't want to work the same way that Gen X. I'm a Gen X. And they don't want to work the same way. And I get that. The quality of life, you want to have the ability to have the summer, you want to live, you want to see the world. But you know what? There's no fun without finance. Because how many of you have ever been on a vacation without any money? There is no fun in that. So you need a great job to fund your habits. Our young people can mentor us, our young colleagues. They deserve their seat at the table. Yet at the same time, people who are boomers and traditionalists, they also have context and wisdom. There is a compromise and meeting of the minds. And I'm so delighted that I get to talk about what that means. And so technology is everywhere. And a lot of times, boomers mostly, and some traditionalists, they're in denial sometimes. So if you're in those categories, they say, well, Kimberly, this too shall pass. Well, I don't think social media is going to pass. I mean, I get it, and I say this everywhere I go because I'm going to own it. When Facebook came out, I was years before I actually had a Facebook page, because I was like, who wants to see me at the sunset? Who cares what I had for dinner? I mean, I was just like, does it even matter? And those famous last words, I wouldn't be working now if I got in the stock what I should have. So I say that to say, let's not ignore this by thinking this is going to pass, because it's not. Especially when you see in the manufacturing environments. That was before automation. This is after automation. Now, it might not be your job function, but if you're doing anything that a machine can do, over time, your companies may make tough decisions about who does that work. Okay? So it doesn't have to be scary if you're prepared. So we all need to bring our A game and pay attention to the mega trends, because it's important. We know that technology is driving transformation. If you were able to go into your environment and save money, figure out how to create and drive revenue, enable transformation, imagine how much more valuable you would be. Imagine how well positioned you would be if they were making tough choices.
What are the key points of your presentation this morning?
So the key points of my presentation are that we have to continually evolve and change, and looking at the trends will help us be in a better position.
Is this your first time here at the Chartered Accountants Conference?
Yes! This is amazing. The energy, the enthusiasm. I walked into this room and immediately felt energized, like caffeine. So I'm really excited to be here.
How would you say conferences of this nature benefit the industry?
So conferences like this, and what I really want to call out is that the president talked about doing a conference that wasn't about technical themes. So this conference that talks about other things that make us well-rounded, that give us perspective, that help us grow and learn, I think are amazing, because this is exactly what we need to know. We need to know what's going on in the world around us, and we need to discuss how those help us in our day-to-day jobs and how we may need to change our strategies.
Talk to us about the theme of your presentation, changing times, changing strategies.
So I really followed the conference theme, and I really wanted it to be informative. I wanted it to be a call to action. I wanted to talk about what every person in this room could do to be intentional and to be accountable. And so changing times just speaks to how technology is changing everything, and we need to change our strategies. So I think they're related, and I'm excited about that.
Is there anything else you want to add?
I think that we are all capable easily of doing what we need. When we talk about inspirational, motivational, hard work, persistence, high integrity, ethics, that's the very definition of the Institute of Chartered Jamaican Accountants. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they do in the future.
Doggin Global Business Process Outsourcing. Doggin Global can help you with your day-to-day administrative and secretarial needs. We provide solutions for streamlining your accounting and bookkeeping procedures, so you can get on with running your business while knowing that all the accounting and statutory needs are being taken care of. Our BPO services include the following: bookkeeping, preparation of budgets, management accounts, and periodic financial analyses, provision of temporary or part-time accounting assistance, design and implementation of accounting systems, preparation of accounting manuals, payroll services, corporate secretarial services, assisting clients with their business entry strategy into the country, setting up new legal entities, maintaining minutes and other legal documents, non-executive directorships, preparing and submitting annual returns. For additional information, contact us at email info@doggin.global, website www.doggin.global.
It's season 12, and Wealth Magazine Business Access is here to keep you business savvy. With an impressive mix of some of Jamaica's most inspiring business moguls, we continue to keep Jamaica informed, empowered, and ready to dominate. Tune in Sundays at 5 p.m. only on BATV.
You're watching
Business Access.
Business Access.
Business Access. Business Access TV. Serious about business.
Career Moves has always explored interesting careers, highlighting all you may not have known about them. This season is no different.
Coming back to Jamaica, everyone's like, Fizzy what? Fizzy who?
When you find a bright boy or girl in the class and people say, what are you going to be? The parents will say, you have to go be a doctor, you have to go be a lawyer. Nobody says you have to go be a politician.
Let me see your hands! Tune in Tuesdays at 8 p.m. on Business Access TV.
Ready for cable for as little as $100? Ready for no monthly cable bill? Ready for 10 TV channels absolutely free? Then pick up our Ready TV box at authorized stores for $4,500. Hook it up to your TV set, then top it up with Ready Credit for 1, 7, or 30 days. Buy now and get $1,000 free Ready Credit and start watching your favorite shows. Pick it up, hook it up, top it up. Ready TV. Prepaid cable TV when you're ready. Now serving Kingston and St. Catherine. Limited time offer while stocks last. Conditions apply.
if you look at the major economies of the world, so we looked at about 46 or 50 of the major economies, and we said, okay, are they seeing growth or not? And that chart tells you what percentage of those economies is seeing positive growth. And so what you've seen is, this is the first time, going back 10 years, that so many countries around the world, including here in Jamaica, by the way, are seeing strong growth. So it's a good thing, right? We've got, not only do we have strong economic growth globally, it's also synchronized. And that's generally a good thing because you want all countries to be sort of, you want a rising tide that lifts all the boats. The evidence from tariffs is that you end up supporting unproductive companies making horrible products at very high prices. I'm also a Gen Xer, as Kimberly is. I grew up in India. I can testify to crappy products at high prices made by horrible companies that shouldn't have existed, right? And so I'm sure there's folks in this room who can understand that as well. On the business side, we have companies coming in saying, oh, come on, I saw all this big global growth, there was tax reform, I was going to make all these waves of investments to capitalize, now you're telling me my supply chains are going to get messed up. So most companies are sort of in wait-and-see mode now. There's also a bunch of firms that saying, you know what, I'm going to try to find local substitutes, and are coming to us and saying, I can't find them. I can't find local substitutes. So what am I going to do, right? Now, that's the broad evidence. Personally, I'm actually not sure what's going to happen. If that's what's going to happen, or if we might actually see some benefit, because there are examples, the little thing on the blue, which is hard to read, there are examples where tariffs have worked. Many Asian economies where companies have been protected for a while, as long as there is competition and as long as there's a push for productivity and investment, you actually do see the tariffs sometimes do work. So that gets us to why all of this is happening, which I think is useful for people to understand, certainly from the US perspective. What happens to the exchange rate? So the theory, the economic theory would tell you that all these tariffs at the end of the day are not going to make a difference because the currency will adjust and imports will become cheaper, exports will become more expensive, and you'll end up with a trade deficit again. You might see, a reallocation. So maybe there won't be as much metals imports, but there'll be some other imports, right? And so overall, the trade deficit will remain the same. That's quite possible. One thing that we've seen is when you look at the US dollar against a bunch of its trading partners, one of the reasons we think that the supply chain has gotten hollowed out is because the exchange rate, this is a chart of the US dollar against a bunch of currencies. The US dollar appreciated in the late 90s, and that is coincident with this sort of decline as a domestic supply chain. A lot of people call out attention to China, but it's not just China, it's the appreciation of the dollar. And what we've seen is that the dollar has stayed at a high value against some of these trading partners since then. So against the Japanese, against the Koreans, you've seen that the dollar has stayed high. And so it is entirely possible that the dollar might adjust, which means that we may end up in a situation back in the 1980s, which again has implications for trade. Now, any of you might remember your history. In the early 1980s with the Reagan administration, we went through something similar to what we're going through now, right? Voluntary restraints on imports, tariffs on a bunch of imports. The target then was Japan and Europe. Now it's China. It didn't work. It didn't work because the exchange rate appreciated and the deficit stayed. And so we ended up with what's called the Plaza Accords of 1985, which was a devaluation of the US dollar, effectively. Some of those people who were involved in those negotiations back in the 1980s are in the administration today. So you might see, I personally would be watching for that to see what happens to the exchange rate. But I am here to tell you, as I tell most of the companies that we work with, if you are holding your breath expecting that all this tariff noise will go away, you should probably start breathing. We have a very resilient global economy, strong, sustained growth for several years, especially over the last 3 or 4 years, but you're starting to see this concern. And one of the concerns, the most important concern that we're seeing from businesses is what is happening with all this trade and geopolitical uncertainty. And what is happening is the fact that there is an escalation, no question. And the escalation is happening under trade auspices that give the administration in the US a lot of authority and a lot of leeway to change practices. And if you look at the words that are coming out of the administration, you will see consistent language about this. Most of that is geared towards the third point, that is to turn around 20 years of a decline in the US supply chain and try to make things better there through more domestic sourcing, through more investment, and through more protectionist policies. And is that going to work? Is anybody's guess? The record, the empirical evidence is not strong. But then we've also not had this kind of a situation where you've got an administration saying, we're going to try to do this.
Give us some feedback on your presentation today.
Well, I think, we wanted to make the point about what's going on with the broader global economy, issues around trade and tariffs, which I know are on top of mind for most people. They are concerned about what they're seeing coming out of the US. And so we wanted to make sure that we kind of covered some of those issues. I think the main point that I wanted to make was that, we are in slightly a different environment where you do have a lot of global growth going on. It's been 10 years since the global economy has been in this situation where there's been such strong growth. And so having these trade issues, these tariffs issues are a little bit of a cloud that a lot of business executives have been telling us are certainly concerns for us. And so that's why we've been developing a perspective on that.
Speak to some of the trends in your field and how they help or harm our local trade.
Well, I think there's a couple of trends that I'd probably call out. One is the fact that, even though you've had very strong global growth, it hasn't translated to the kind of global trade and investment flows that we've got used to at least last decade. So 10 years ago, we were in a strong period of global growth, and there was a lot of global trade, there was a lot of global investment, cross-border flows of services and goods. This time, it's still strong growth, but there's not commensurate growth in trade and investment. And so one of the things that we've been trying to figure out is why that's happening. And then certainly now that you've seen more action on tariffs coming from the US administration, that's also acting as a dampener on further growth of trade and investment. So I think one of the big things that we're seeing is the fact that, most people have been wondering whether the tariffs are really going to, are they going to stick around? Do just wait it out? And one of the points we've been trying to make is to understand why the tariffs are coming by looking at issues around the domestic supply chain, particularly in some of these advanced industries, where what we've seen is that over the last 20 years or so, the majority of the growth that the American manufacturing sector has seen has not been shared by small and mid-sized companies in the domestic supply chain. All of that growth has gone to the largest companies. And the smaller and mid-sized firms in the domestic supply chain, by and large, have seen negative growth rates. You've seen companies or establishments shutting down. And that matters because the majority of workers, the majority of investment is in that supply chain. And so when the supply chain doesn't see strong growth, it has a knock-on effect on things like wage growth, or investment growth, or technology readiness, or productivity growth, right? And so that's really what we're seeing, or what we're looking for is, when you have this new kind of environment around tariffs, is that combined with things like tax reform, are you actually going to see a wave of investment coming into the supply chain? That's what we're looking for.
Talk to us about what's unique about the design of this conference.
This conference is geared towards getting persons prepared for the change that is happening, the disruption that is happening in the world today, and for our leaders to understand the change and what it means for them. And that's what's unique about it. In fact, that we are focusing on it. It's not really a numbers crunching IFRS conference. It's really a true business conference where we can focus on other things outside of accounting.
What were some expectations that you had of this conference?
First of all, I expected to have a very high level of participation from our members and from the business community. I expect that our presenters would deliver on the topics that were selected for them in accordance with the objectives of the ICAJ. And so far, we are very pleased that we are meeting those objectives. It's changing time, changing strategies, and we really like to impart knowledge to our membership and to the business community, so I think that expectation is paramount.
More from the ICAJ Business Conference when we return.
It's Island Hour, it's Island Hour, it's Island Hour, free eye test. It's Island Hour, it's Island Hour, it's Island Hour, free eye test.
Free eye testing is back and it's here to stay. Island Eyewear offers free eye testing every day, all day at all locations island-wide. Conditions apply. Make your appointment today at www.islandeyewear.com or call us 630-1180. Island Eyewear, your style, your price. It's Island Hour, free eye test.
Your business matters. Business Access TV offers you the most innovative and effective advertising solution for your business, specializing in B2B sales, cost-effective solutions, the customers you want, the repetition you need. No matter the size and nature of your company, your business matters. Call us at 876-618-2870 or email us at sales@batvja.com. Business Access TV, serious about business. Cameo brings the creative industries to life. Delighting creatives in different fields each week. Art.
My life turns art. I breathe, I eat art.
Fashion. Food.
Without a customer, we're nothing but four walls.
Music. Film. Cameo, only on Business Access TV.
Sundays at 4:30 p.m. It's all about Home Sweet Home. Get your half-hour dose of the business of real estate, from laws and concepts to reality, building, buying, or renting. Or what about trends in decor or renovations? Home Sweet Home will keep you up to date.
If you are just joining us, Business Access TV is here at the Jamaica Pegasus for the ICAJ Annual Business Conference.
Let's talk about encryption for a little bit. Encryption today is not what it used to be. Encryption today is actually very, very simple. I mean, you can do it on your phone, on your laptop, on your tablets with just a couple of clicks. So by all means, encrypt the data that you consider sensitive. It's very easy to do, and it's a very, very effective way to achieve data security. If an app that you're looking at or looking at installing, if it seems too good to be true, chances are it really is too good to be true. I mean, this one app is not going to change the world with just a couple of clicks. That's not impossible. You want to ensure that only the applications that you have on your devices are the applications that are necessary for the execution of your function, of your job function. So don't have things that are installed on there that, you know, is just on there just because it looks kind of cool. It's nice to have that sort of stuff. Many times those apps, especially the ones that seem too good to be true, all they are backdoors for stealing your data. Email is the most widely used tool to compromise data security. It's a low-hanging fruit. The truth is, hackers by nature are actually very lazy people that really don't have to work hard for what it is that they're getting. So if they can do something, if they can send out 1 million emails with malicious content or malicious link, all they're really interested in is that 100 people click on it. They're not really interested that 1 million people have actually clicked on it. And really and truly is, as a hacker, they actually don't want to be in your environment, because if they're in your environment, then the likelihood of getting caught increases. So if they can do it remotely, it's much better for them. And they do that by email, by sending an email with a compromised link or a compromised attachment. So always think before you click on any form of attachments that with any email at all. I'll actually take a step back and say to you, think before you even open the email. Because I've seen situations today where the email will come with an attachment, but the attachment is a self-executing attachment. So once you click on the email itself, the attachment executes in the background, steals your data. I know there's a practice that, you know, especially for people who use Outlook, to have the preview pane of the email up and running, because it makes life easier. It is, because you can quickly glance at the preview pane and say, all right, this is what it's about, and you can make a decision about whether to act or not to act. I'd actually recommend that you turn it off, because those self-executing emails actually run once the preview pane comes up. Another thing that you want to do is you want to keep your systems up to date. You want to ensure that the applications that are running on your devices, whether it's your phone, your tablet, or your computer, are up to date. Nearly all the time a vendor releases an update, it's nearly always to fix a security hole. Oftentimes, it's, you know, a small portion of the time is for functionality. If they're going to release functionality, they actually release a new version of the application. But once they publish an update for the application, nearly all the time, it is a security-related hole that they're trying to fix. There are so many vulnerabilities that exist today with so many applications that you have to, as soon as a newer version comes out, you want to ensure that you keep your system up to date and install the latest versions of software. It's often you have applications or you have data on your devices, and the usage of that data is just, you have it just because. No, don't keep data on your machine just because you need to have it on there. Because it becomes unused over time, it becomes old and you forget about it, and then the next time you remember about it is when you're in the headlines because, suddenly company data is out there, your machine was compromised, and you remember, oh, I had this folder on my machine. One of the things that we recommend is that once you're done, you set expiration on the data sets that you're using. So once you're done with something, after the reasonable reporting period has passed, move it, archive it into a secure location, an offsite storage or something like that. Now, backup is often not associated with security. It's often associated with other components of IT. But backup is actually a very important component in security. If we think back to the security triad, backup is affected by the availability component of that triad. Now, think of if, for argument's sake, you've suffered a compromise of any kind, and your data becomes corrupt or lost or anything like that. The absence of a functioning or a proper backup means that the data is no longer available. It means that the system is no longer available. It means that the application is no longer available. And you have failed the availability component of the triad, and therefore you have failed data security. So it's very important to have verifiable backups. Don't just back up your data and say, all right, fine, I'll copy these files over to this folder, I'll run the backup process in this application, and it has copied the file and stored them in a location, in a secure location. Always verify them. We've seen an example where we were called in to investigate a compromise, and the compromise was so bad that we said to the customer, look, give me a backup set, let's start to recover from the backup set. And they diligently showed us the log of their backups. The backup happened every night. The technician checked it off that it was backed up and so on. But when we went to the backup was actually compromised as well. So they're ticking it off that it's being backed up, but nobody is checking to say, is this backup a backup of the compromised data? It just so happens that it was backup of the compromised data, but the backup runs and it says it's completed successfully, and they tick the box. Yes, we've backed up our data. One of the things that I'd recommend here also is that security awareness training, one of the things that we try to do is we try to connect it personally. I know a lot of times, people are doing their jobs and they kind of abstract their work life from their personal life. So one of the things that we do is we try to connect security and data security in particular to your own personal situation. So we'll talk about things like, consider things like how would a compromise of your bank accounts affect you personally, right? And think about all the emotions and everything that goes with that. You can't pay a mortgage and all of that sort of stuff. Think about what will happen if that exact same compromise would happen in the company's bank accounts. People can't get paid, suppliers can't get paid, and that sort of stuff. So one of the things I do, if you try to connect it on a personal level, and you see the gravity or the impact of the situation personally, then it's easier to translate that into business. Achieving data security is not a line in the sand that you draw and you say, boy, all right, I've done all of these things, so my data is now secure. It's a continual process. You have to keep assessing. You have to keep looking at your data needs, your data assets, and saying, all right, is the risk that we face today the same tomorrow? And you have to continually improve. It's a process of continual improvement. I think in security in the security circles we have a common thought that there are really just two types of businesses in the world: those who have been hacked and those who don't know they've been hacked. And that's a reality. It takes about, the average security incident takes about 30 days to be discovered. And for companies that their pockets are, they're deep and they're invested in it, it may take another 180 days to recover from it. So it could be up to a year in many instances that you don't even know that you've been compromised. Many businesses don't ever recover from a compromise. So to achieve data security, do something. Something. There are many things on the list that are simple to do. They're low-hanging fruits. Just do them. Because doing something is much better than doing nothing and assuming that you've never had a compromise.
The way the technology is going now, it's not even a race for relevance. It's a race for survival. Because if you're not with it, you're going to die. Right? In fact, you have to be savvy. So I was tempted to come up here with paper, but I make sure I come with the iPhone. Because if you go anywhere you're presenting now from paper, you're not cutting it. So sometimes when you don't have anything on the phone, you carry it up here. So, right? And some people do it. You know that? Yeah, man, them walk up with the phone and, yes, and moving and touching on the phone, right? But it's the look, right? And it's the image. And we're going to talk about the image because we really have to change it. Because obviously, technology affords us to do things cheaper, more efficient, all of the above in terms of that. So there are some opportunities there for us finance people. So what's the imperative of our finance professional? First of all, we have to apprise ourselves with the technology that's available across. Right? We're going to discuss some of them, but what I'm saying is that whatever we can do in this small window cannot replace the plethora of different applications that are out there. So as a finance professional within your industry, you have to be researching, talking to IT, looking overseas to ensure that you're aware what is out there. Companies are going through rapid technological change. It's emotionally charged. Every day you hear that there's a list coming out, and you wonder if you're named upon the list. Anybody understand what I'm talking about? It's reality, right? So when we're doing technological changes, right, it calls for proper leadership. And it can happen in many ways. You can even get sabotaged. Because if you don't treat people well, they can sabotage you in the transformation process. So this managing of the organizational impact is key. And I would recommend that if it is major enough, get what we call change management help. Right? You may need people who are adept at change management to guide you through this process. Focus on talent and skills. Very critical. The skills that we needed yesterday and the talent are not necessarily what we need today and going forward. And that's one of the challenges that we have. Some tough decisions may have to be taken, and we may have to redeploy people. But you have to make sure that we have the right talent and skill to take their organization forward based on the new technologies that we are applying. Cashier-free store. Real. Amazon has this. You have an Amazon card. You just walk into the store, you swipe, go in, take what you want, leave, and the process send the bill to you. Nobody's involved. Understand that implications for that. In fact, a few years ago, maybe 2 years ago, I was in Israel and on a tour. And in there you can do the Israel tour. It's a very good tour. But we stopped at a gas station with the tour guide and put the nozzle in his tank, full up, drove out. Asked him, nobody was involved. He explained to me that the nozzle has a microchip, and so does the car tank. The amount of gas that he's taking is recorded, transmitted by a bill to his company from the gas station. Nobody involved. Right? So I saw that, and it wasn't even last year, this is over 2 years ago. This is a sign of where we are and where we are going. So I'm just putting these things up there. And if you want to research it, fine. But I'm just trying to tell you, because we used to talk about the future. The Heptones have a song that said, the future is here, my dear. Because the future is here. So all that we're talking about, we used to talk about their emerging technologies. Nah, the technology is here. We have to be very cognizant of social media. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm on all of them. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of them. Because we have communicated and keeping in touch with your team members, knowing what they're doing, your children, your niece and nephew and all of that, this social media thing. So I'm saying to us as chartered accountants, don't have any phobia about it. Get with the program. So our job is not to be fearful of what is happening. Our job is to adapt to the change and make sure that we can perform as professionals under the new systems. Right? Our brain, Tavi. In fact, let's say a man's brain, it start work from in his mother's womb and don't stop work at all right until adulthood. When a man's brain stop work, when his wife asks him, where were you last night, honey? That's the only time a man's brain stop work. Right? But seriously, the computers cannot really replace us. But they will make us redundant if we don't adapt to change. So in summary, as I said before, I didn't intend to give you a technical presentation. I really want to give you what you call a reality check to make sure that you understand that these technologies, I've been part of change process for a number of years, but never before have I seen so much coming at me in a short space of time. You understand? It's not like one time when you have a look at time, you don't have no room for error. It's coming, right? Rapid, rapid, rapid. And I'm saying, as accountants, we have to deal with it, grasp opportunities, make things better for ourselves and the organization, and just don't let the bus leave us. All in all, before wrapping up, the question is, are you ready? And I hope you're ready.
PwC is a sponsor here today. Talk to us about that partnership.
Yeah, but PwC, we are very happy to sponsor this conference. The Institute, we have been sponsoring it a few years now. We think it's a very important conference for accountants to maintain their relevance in a very dynamic environment. We think it's value for money to get all stakeholders on board on a conference like this, to share some very good ideas, cover some good topics. So we are always on board and we'll continue to be on board with it.
Today you are also a presenter. Speak to us about the main points of your presentation.
The topic of my presentation was professional accountants maintaining relevance in the digital age. So it's all to do with us as accountants moving with the pace of technology, because we all know technology is taking over almost everything. So we have to ensure that we take steps to make sure that we are relevant. There are opportunities, there are challenges. So my presentation covered a number of emerging technologies, artificial intelligence, robotic process automation, cyber security, cloud computing, number of different areas. Encouraging the accountants to get on board, familiarize yourself with all these technologies to ensure that you can function properly in the digital age.
Outside of functioning properly in the digital age, what advice would you give young professionals who want to become accountants?
Well, it's a noble profession. I don't think there's a profession that gives you the wide insight into businesses as auditing and accounting. It's really broad-based. I would encourage youngsters to take a serious look at it. I think career choice is very critical. You have to look at something that you have the aptitude for, something that can pay your bills, and something that you like, because those three have to go together. So that's my advice. I'm not going to go to say everybody must turn an accountant. Do the research and make sure. But I'm telling you that's an attractive profession. It's a plethora because of activities, because you have auditors, you have forensic auditors, you have internal auditors, you have financial analysts, chief accountants. So there's a wide range in the profession that you can get into.
Management Accounting Services. Keeping track of business performance is the key to driving future business performance. Having sound, up-to-date, and regular financial reports will ensure you are making well-informed business decisions in relation to matters such as capital expenditure, cost reductions, where future sales growth needs monitoring or driving, under or well-performing staff, or when is the right time to take on new staff. Dodgen Global can help you to prepare interim financial reports and therefore better advise you as to your future tax payments to prevent any surprises at year-end and to smooth out your tax obligations, saving you money. We will have discussions with you regarding the results of these reports and make sure you are aware of any pitfalls or areas that need your attention on a more regular basis. Our team can help you make smarter, more effective decisions. Let's have a conversation. Contact us at email info@dodgen.global, website https://dodgen.global.
Business current affairs you can relate to. Frank, credible discussion. On point, dissecting the issues. Offering solutions to Jamaica's challenges. On point. Thursdays at 8 p.m. on Business Access TV.
The Good Life, your trusted source for useful health and wellness information, lifestyle tips for the mind, body, and soul. Tune in Tuesdays at 8:30 p.m. on Business Access TV.
It's season 12, and Wealth Magazine Business Access is here to keep you business savvy. With an impressive mix of some of Jamaica's most inspiring business moguls, we continue to keep Jamaica informed, empowered, and ready to dominate. Tune in Sundays at 5 p.m. only on BATV.
You're watching
Business Access.
Business Access.
Business Access. Business Access TV.
Serious about business.
I'm pleased to be here to talk to you about T-Tech. T-Tech is the first company to be listed on the Junior Stock Exchange and as an IT firm, and we provide managed services to persons in the IT space. So if you have network servers to be managed, we will look after that for you, provide a service desk. We also help you to implement your cybersecurity program.
Why did you decide to be a sponsor here today?
Well, one, we work closely with financial members of financial profession because they tend to also supervise IT professionals, and also we recognize that the financial profession needs to understand the importance of cybersecurity.
Give us some clarity on BPOs and share some benefits.
Well, in terms of clarity, overall it's an industry that's very people-centric. So it hires a lot of folks, and it also enables their growth and development. And if I were to think of some what you'd call advantages of the industry, I would say, simply put, it creates options that are not limited by age, race, nationality, or any other factor that usually impacts corporate America. In my example, personally, I was a vice president at age 25 in a Fortune 500 company. There's not many industries that take that kind of a chance on someone who is young and who does not necessarily meet the status quo. These conferences from a BPO perspective, for me, the biggest advantage is there's a lot of negative perception and a lot of negative press out there about the industry. And what it does, it deters people who could really have an impact to come in and succeed. So from functions like this, my intention is always to correct those myths and to ensure that people view the industry in a positive light, because it is indeed a positive industry.
So talk to us about CPA Canada. What do you guys do?
Sure. CPA Canada, CPA, Chartered Professional Accountants of Canada. We are Canada's national accounting designation. But as much as I say Canada, we are 100% recognized globally. As such, we are affiliate members of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Jamaica and recognized by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of the Caribbean. Basically, if someone wants to become an accountant, they usually do a first degree, sometimes they choose to do a second. But at some point in time, they need to become a qualified accountant. Accountancy, like other professions, are highly governed, and as a result, one needs to choose a designation to qualify under. CPA Canada is one such option. It is 100% available to persons who are living in Jamaica. Fortunately, it's 2018, and there's no longer the need to actually go to Canada to earn the designation. Someone can actually sit in Jamaica, continue working, enjoy their family life, and study at the same time. This is actually our second year as a sponsor of the ICAJ conference. It's a great opportunity for us to maintain connections and ties and support our members who are based in Jamaica. So some of these persons who are present here today are actually Canadian CPAs active in Jamaica. And it's also a good touch point for the younger ones who are still undecided as to what designations they want to do. And for those who are qualified, we have a lot of certificate programs that they can now subscribe to. So it's a wonderful opportunity. I particularly like this conference because it's not just 100% accounting topics per se, which can get very technical. It's more of a business conference and really touches issues that are affecting us in the business community today.
Speak to us about the mandate of the ICAJ.
So the ICAJ is the institute that governs the accounting profession. So our members are those persons who have qualified in accountancy to earn the designation as chartered accountants. So essentially our job is to engage with those members, help manage them through their career, and to provide for new members a training of students and the coaching and mentorship of students so that they can become chartered accountants one day. So this is a business conference, and the theme is meant to be there for covering non-accounting issues, because we're trying to attract an audience other than our traditional membership. So the last 3 years, we've done the Megatrends hashtag. So that's why it's 3.0, Megatrends 3.0. The feedback has been extremely positive. I think people like the topics. I've got very positive feedback on the speakers themselves. There's good energy in the room, there's good buzz. So from that perspective, the conference has met our objectives. We have probably our largest delegate list ever, just over 300 people. There are about 50 people online. So from a total attendance, yes, it probably has checked that box. From a diversity of the persons who are attending, I think we've fallen a bit short. So we need to figure out how we bring more people into the discussion. This is not intended to be focused only on accountants. So to the extent that we wanted to see more bankers, attorneys, other professions, engineers. We have a topic coming up on the environment and disposal of plastics and how we manage plastics in our economy. What challenges and opportunities that present. That's not an accounting discussion. That's a discussion that anyone who lives and works in Jamaica should be interested in. And so diversity, I think we can improve that. From a production perspective, I think, again, this year we have done a better job than prior years. So we're continuously improving, but I think we can still take the production level up a notch. We want it to be a really high-impact type of conference, so you feel as if at the moment you walk in that this is something new and different every year. So we're going to work on those two aspects in the future.
There you have it, another staging of the ICAJ Business Conference. I've been your host, Amita Prasad Webb, and thank you for watching Business Access TV, serious about business.
They say it takes a village to raise a child, but the world will one day need the leadership of that child. The time you spend with your child matters. It stimulates their minds and shapes the way they act. Talk with your children. Help them to better understand the world around them and to value what is truly precious. Above all, the most valuable gift you can give them is love. Play, talk, teach, love. Take the time. It makes all the difference. A message from the Parenting Helpline and Ad Council Jamaica.
Now presenting the Jamaica Social Investment Fund ICDP Enterprise Development Project. Entrepreneurial Grant Business Pitch.
This project is a $100 million grant that's seeking to target 50 small and micro business enterprises and give them training, capacity development, equipment, permits and license towards the development and the viability of their business. We have made a call for proposal in March of this year for entrepreneurs to submit for the opportunity to receive a grant between $1 and $5 million. We received more than 500 applications, and so we have now shortlisted them to 100. So we've invited that top 100 applicants here today, and they're going to have to pitch their business idea to a panel, and of the 150 will actually transpire and win the opportunity for the grants. One of the primary objectives of what we're doing here is employment. We want the business to be able to sustain not only the principals as the owners, but we also want the business to be able to employ at least 2 people. The next part of it, as we do in all of our projects like this, is it provides a learning instrument of how we can engage small and micro enterprises and take them to the next level.
Why we're doing this rigorous process, because we want to identify the best potential entrepreneurs for this project. And keep in mind that we are speaking about a loan, so we want to ensure that the applicants are committed, and that from a sustainability point of view, that upon receiving the support from JSIP, that in 2 or 3 years, the enterprises will still be operational and the broader objective of the project would be achieved. Once we have now equipped them and they should be ready to start the production line going, we'll then have a mentorship component.
It has been a very competitive process. Jamaica is filled with persons with drive and passion. We're expecting that the best will be selected. And then for those who are not successful, we are also hoping to link them to other providers of services, because I'm telling you today, from what I've seen, it is an excellent, excellent, excellent opportunity. It's worthy of note that many persons coming here today already have some kind of semblance of a business, but they need the additional support to move that business to the other level, as well as some persons that are coming with those proposals to start from scratch. On behalf of the JSIF, we want to really thank the DBJ and other partners from UWI who came to be part of the panel, and just to remind you that the JSIF is here and we're investing for community development.
We are back with another exciting, innovative, and inspiring season.
It takes a lot of stick-to-itiveness, being consistent and persistent in whatever you're doing. That's the bottom line.
Business exists to add value to people's lives. And if we're not doing that, might as well we lock down the store and just call it a day.
It's a season 3 of Creating Wealth, Mondays at 8 p.m. on Business Access TV.
On Point is brought to you by Crow Jamaica.
A very good evening and welcome to On Point. I'm Patria Kay.
And I'm Dennis Chung.
And we're going to walk you through the show today. Dennis, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm watching the impeachment process in the U.S., and you watch that and then you watch a Brexit situation and, what's happening with climate change and you say, boy, can we go lower than what we are now?
Boy, you talk about climate change. The weather girl in me has my eyes set on Hurricane Lorenzo that's out there. It is the hurricane that actually traveled farthest. Ireland is actually on hurricane watch right now from the storm that started out in the waters of the Atlantic going up there. So I certainly have my eyes on that. But what I really have my eyes on is the storm that we're creating in Doha, Qatar at the IWF World Championships. I mean,
Shelly and
oh my gosh, moments of magic. Moments of magic.
Dakers.
I love the fact that there's a diversification happening from the Jamaica side because there were concerns about, the future of certainly the sprinting factory label that Jamaica had for a long time, and to see us medal, quality medals in both the shot put and also the long jump make you think, there's an opportunity for us to take a look at some of the
let me tell you something. What is happening in our track and field consistently over the years, a lot of it is really coming from two coaches, You ever think about it?
Big ups.
Two coaches.
Big ups.
Stephen Francis
and Glenn Mills. Big ups to Stephen Francis, who has proven himself as a great coach, not just
excellent,
athletic world beaters, not just track world beaters, but now with what he's done with Gail.
Yeah, I think Stephen Francis is the best. For me, he is the best. Because he has not just produced them one or two in track, but the field events to be winning that. Because Trisha Gay Smith was under him also.
Wow.
He's a fantastic person. I've never met him yet, but my hats off to him. Him and Glenn Mills. I think they've really carried this thing far.
Best in the world, worth their weight. There are concerns, however, though, that when you took a look at the races where we were traditionally strong, the 200-meter males, there were no Jamaicans in that race. Shelley had to pull out of the 200-meter female. Where we were strong, are we losing the talent? Have we lost sight on where we're strong? Because it's one thing to add, but if you're adding and taking away from another area, should we be concerned about track stars going forward?
I have a theory on that. Shelley, we know, is 32, right? It's not young for what she's doing, so which makes it much greater. But on the men's side, I remember Usain Bolt, he had a rant recently where he just said that the men were not putting in the work. And if you don't put in the work, irrespective of how talented you are, you're not going to get to that level. And remember that while we are improving, other people are improving also. And that's just my theory on it.
Very interesting. Well, folks, we have a big show for you. Jamaica recently received a ratings upgrade from Standard & Poor's, taking a look at Jamaica's macroeconomy in the show today. Are we really ready to take off? We'll take a look at that.
But first, let's take a look back at some of the top business stories of the week.
At number 5, the U.S. has been given the go-ahead to impose tariffs on $7.5 billion worth of goods it imports from the European Union. This is the latest in a 15-year battle between the U.S. and the EU over illegal subsidies for playmakers Airbus and rival Boeing. The World Trade Organization WTO's ruling will mean tariffs on EU goods ranging from aircraft to cheese come October 18. Brussels has threatened to retaliate similarly against U.S. goods. And at number 4, U.S. clothing store Forever 21 has filed for bankruptcy and plans to close up to 350 stores globally. The chain could close as many as 178 underperforming stores in the U.S., though it will have sales and rent negotiations until December 31. Though Forever 21 is still operating stores and its online business, an expert says individuals who are holding gift cards from the company should redeem them as soon as possible. Meanwhile, a spokesperson for Forever 21 says the company's discussions about U.S. store closures are still ongoing. At number 3, the Bank of Jamaica BOJ says it will be maintaining the policy interest rate offered on overnight balances from deposit-taking institutions at 0.5%. The BOJ says this decision is based on its current assessment that prevailing monetary conditions are generally appropriate to support the achievement of the inflation target range of 4 to 6% over the next 4 to 8 quarters. At number 2, the Jamaican economy grew by 1.3% for the second quarter of 2019 when compared to the similar quarter of 2018. This resulted from improved performances in both the goods-producing industries and the services industries. The Statistical Institute of Jamaica Statin says the positive performance of the goods-producing industries was due to higher levels of output in manufacturing and mining and quarrying. And at number 1 this week, Trans-Jamaican Highway is going public. The government says it will be putting up shares through an initial public offering IPO. Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark says in privatizing government assets through listing on the Jamaica Stock Exchange, the administration hopes to get more Jamaicans to own aspects of the country's productive sector. He says the Trans-Jamaican Highway IPO will be the largest in Jamaica's history. NCB Capital Markets will be the lead arranger.
When we come back, gauging Jamaica's economic pulse right here on Point.
Doggin Global Introduction. Doggin Global is an integrated multidisciplinary professional service firm. We are integrated as one firm and provide several professional services, including audit, accounting, tax, IT, risk, HR, performance, M&A, corporate recovery, and other advisory services. The firm is organized in several professional service units, which includes Doggin Auditors, Doggin Advisors, Doggin Legal, Doggin Finance, Doggin HR Solutions, Doggin Tech Solutions, Doggin Media, Doggin Corporate Secretarial. If you are interested in any of our services, please contact us for a free quote. Email info@doggin.global. Website doggin.global.
Every day you wake up, you have another opportunity to make this little island better, safer, a place where we all can be proud to call home. It's time we all recognize that every little thing we do has an impact on the Jamaica we live in now and the country we're leaving for our children. So promise me this, promise yourself this. No more will we tolerate criminals, even if it's our relatives. Tell them they're doing something wrong. Tell them to stop. Tell them no more robbing our children of the Jamaica they deserve. Tell them no more crime.
Welcome back, folks, to On Point. Now, Standard & Poor's have upgraded Jamaica's credit rating from a B to a B+. Take a listen.
Ratings agency Standard & Poor's S&P has upgraded the government of Jamaica's long-term foreign and local currency rating to B+ from B. S&P has also affirmed the B rating on the country's short-term foreign and local currency sovereign credit ratings. Meanwhile, S&P Global Ratings also raised its transfer and convertibility assessment to BB- from B+. The ratings agency says Jamaica's outlook remains stable. S&P says the ratings upgrade reflects Jamaica's sustained progress in achieving boosting macroeconomic stability and strengthening its external liquidity, which improved the country's ability to withstand external shocks. The ratings agency also cited its anticipated continuation of public sector reforms and the establishment of an independent fiscal council as critical factors to promote sustainable fiscal practices and deepen government accountability in a post-International Monetary Fund IMF standby arrangement environment. S&P says the outlook was affirmed based on the government's willingness to continue maintaining robust primary fiscal surpluses, which will support a gradual reduction in debt and interest burdens and help to boost external reserves. In the meantime, the ratings agency says it also expects the country will be able to maintain its growth momentum with modest GDP growth and that the government will continue advancing toward a more effective monetary policy framework for the central bank, including a more flexible exchange rate. A two-member team from Standard & Poor's visited Jamaica in May to conduct the annual review.
And joining us now to talk about the S&P upgrade and Jamaica's overall economic health are two newbies. The new IMF representative to Jamaica, Mr. Kareem Youssef, and the co-chair and the newly anointed president of the PSOJ, Mr. Keith Duncan. Welcome to On Point, gentlemen.
Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Got to say congratulations on the completion of a successful IMF program.
Sure.
I'm going to start with you, Keith, because EPOC had a heavy hand in ensuring that you steadied the ship in some of that. Talk to me about that work.
I believe EPOC had a role to play. There was the will. The will was there by both administrations through the first the extended fund facility from 2013 through 2016, and from 2016 and 2019 with the precautionary standby arrangement, there was political will. The country was galvanized around an economic reform program. EPOC was there in a monitoring role, being very supportive and really ensuring that we hit the targets, we made the policy commitments, and we hit our structural benchmarks. And the criteria, the performance criteria, a big help, the behind the scenes, and not necessarily behind the scenes, but very overt, IMF was right there providing technical assistance, providing guidance, always holding us to account also. So therefore, it was a huge team effort to get Jamaica to where we are today. You know, but it took the political administrations on both sides of the political fence to ensure that we got here. And that shows when we're united as a country, what we can achieve.
Kareem, I'm saying welcome to Jamaica. You are going to be with us for the next 2.5 years, but it's not your first time here.
No, I've been here 16 times. This is my 17th in the last 2.5 years, and I love Jamaica. So.
Absolutely fantastic. Yeah. So you would have been able to take a kind of bird's eye view, an outsider's look at what happened with the program. Sure. Your own perspective.
My favorite words to use in this particular case is really a Cinderella story. As Keith put his finger on the right spot, I think it's an amazing example of ownership at all levels, across administrations. The level of understanding and appreciation for the amount of reform, the substantial amount of reform that had to be undertaken over 6.5 years, goes from the top policymakers in the country all the way down to the taxi cab driver and the everyday person on the street. It is a true achievement in that regard. If you look at fund programs throughout history, you'll rarely find a situation like this where the level of ownership across all segments of society of the reforms was truly there.
But Keith, coming back to that Patricia started out with, I mean, here we are now, right? Where would you say we are now in relation to where we need to be, and what do we need to do? We still need to be cautious about some things, eh?
Oh, for sure. I mean, our debt to GDP levels are down to 90-odd%, and that's significantly ahead of where we were 6 years ago, coming from as high as 147%. That's all good. We are running fiscal surpluses, meaning that we are earning more than we are spending. That's all good, so that is being reduced. However, so the economic reform program is on track. However, growth still eludes us in a real way. We're still hovering below 2%, 1.5% on average. However, there is growth, consecutive growth for 17 quarters. However, there are other areas of the economy that we need to do. We have structural deficiencies we need to fix. Crime is an issue. Access to finance for small and medium enterprises is an issue because they are the engine of growth. So therefore, while we have put in place, the the reform program. No, we need to build on this now to really move our economy forward, to have inclusive growth. And it's the small and medium enterprises that are the engine of the economy, outside of our large corporates, because corporates have access to finance, but what we're not seeing is the access to finance from where we want creativity and innovation to grow, which is our small and medium enterprises. So we know really, and so there's a whole effort over the past year or so, the Minister of Finance with his tax give back to ensure removal of minimum business tax, increasing the GCT threshold. There are a slew of things that have been procurement recently in SMEs to be able to produce, provide 20% of the government, but behind that there's work to be done because there's still a lot of bureaucracy. So if even if a small and medium enterprise provide services or goods, for him to get through the procurement is a lot of bureaucracy. So there's work to be done behind all of these deliverables.
But Keith, it kind of feels like looking back in hindsight, we're able to explain away things because we started out the last 3.5 years ago with huge optimism.
Right.
We started out with a target of 5 in 4.
Right.
And the conversation from all sectors was this is doable.
Yes.
So what happened in those projections?
Yes,
what happened to those projections?
You know, the official projections in the under the economic program was like maybe 2 to 3%. The aspirational target was 5 in 4, and there's nothing wrong with having an aspirational target. But we had structural deficiencies in our economy. Those need to be dealt with before we can really get to the potential of our economy. And those areas have to be addressed before we can get there. So we started out with huge optimism, yes, because we were on a path. But there is a sobering lesson to be learned that you have to deal with the major issues that we have.
Impediments.
You know, because while we have said, you know, I mean, over the last 20, 30 years, Jamaica has lived from economic crisis to economic crisis to economic crisis. We have finally settled down in that regard. But what occurred over that period is that we didn't strengthen our institutions. We didn't invest in our police force. We didn't give them the tools. We didn't train them to be able to really police effectively. You know what I mean? We didn't give them the capacity. So now we're at a place now where crime is an issue because we didn't strengthen our institutions. Water, when last we built a dam? 40, 50 years ago.
Can we afford to put in those kinds of strengthening of institutions at the risk of where we are now and the economic stability that we're achieving?
We won't risk it because as fiscal space opens up, you have to put in long-term plans to get Jamaica on the right track.
And if you don't do it, you're going to falter. So let me ask Karim.
Karim wanting to comment, yes.
If you can comment on that, Karim, but also within the context of things that were supposed to happen under the program, particularly public sector reform.
Sure. Just let's back up a little bit to the ratings conversation, right? Because that's where we started. If you consider where Jamaica was in 2013, in 2010, we were talking about I think what the ratings agencies call a selective default, or the NDX, right? That we went through in Jamaica in 2010 and 2013. We cannot ignore that the ratings cycle that took Jamaica from B in 2000, in the late 1990s, down to a selective default situation, back to B plus now today. Look at the countries that are at a B plus rating. We're talking about Jordan, we're talking about Ukraine, I think we're talking about Bahrain. These are not bad neighbors to have. The outlook, as I understand from the S&P and from the ministry's press briefing on the ratings change was that the outlook is stable. That reflects by the numbers, right? As Keith said, debt going down from 145% of GDP to under 100% of GDP. I think 95 was the latest print that I saw for the first time since fiscal year 2000-2001. That's not trivial. Inflation has come down from the neighborhood of 12% and above serially to 4%, and we're now trying to get monetary transmission back with some of the SME financing and so on to get it back to 5%, which is the target. Unemployment, it's the lowest historical level that I know of, at 7.8% of latest print. These are all indications of an economy that is sufficiently stable and that has a profoundly robust policy framework in place. Now, what is the next step? The next step is putting in place these institutions, the Bank of Jamaica Act, the Fiscal Council, to make sure that the hard-won reforms that have brought us to this point are not reversed and are entrenched, right, for the foreseeable future, for forward-looking generations. Now, in terms of what was supposed to happen and what didn't happen, I would turn that on its head a little bit, and I would say, now that you've stabilized the economy, now that you have a robust policy framework to bring you into the future, what you need to do is to think about the structural impediments, the structural constraints that are in the economy: crime, the provision of services through the public sector and the efficiency of that. That's a conversation that needs to be had. Someone told me that a conversation around public sector transformation is necessarily political. Perhaps so, but on the other hand, it is a question of what do we want from our public sector. If you look around the globe, you look at a public sector that is able to not necessarily use as much labor, instead using capital, using technology in order to provide services to the population. Naturally, that creates efficiencies and creates space. Right? Creates fiscal space, creates room to work on roads, to work on protecting the population, to protect them from crime and to reduce crime, not just on the end of catching criminals, but also on the ability to reduce crime ex ante, look at the services and the social safety net that allows people to remain in school.
But on that very vein, that's been one of the most difficult things for the Ministry of Finance to tackle. You're talking about a wage bill that's been difficult for them to look at. You're talking about incentives that are numerous and allowances that are numerous, that we got to this place because people weren't able to pay off of the kinds of increases that the teachers wanted, the police officers wanted, and so the spread became wider. How do you narrow that without upsetting the very people that you serve?
I think the beautiful thing of the EPOC experience is that you have to get broad-based support and engagement to have a conversation about what it is that we're trying to do, as opposed to having parallel tracks of the conversation that are happening, saying this is what the government is trying to do, and the government is responding saying no, that's not what we're trying to do. It has to be a broader political and social will.
Yeah. On that note, Keith, and you would know more about this. As an accountant, one of the things that I'm always bothered by is the fact that we have not been considering enough our pension liabilities that are upcoming. That's a massive problem, isn't it?
Right, it is. I mean, and Kareem knows it well in terms of how that can get out of control. I think over the last couple of years, in terms of the contribution, the pension contributions, and having the civil servants contribute, is a step in the right direction.
But that's just a drop in the bucket to the problem.
In the right direction, yes. But you have to see. I think I think the Minister of Finance and the Civil Service and the government of Jamaica is very much aware of the issue, and I think they're working towards making it sustainable. You know what I mean? I think there was a whole the National Insurance Fund and NIS. There are reforms occurring there that we should start moving that issue and starting to minimize that, close that gap, which is important. Dennis, you're absolutely right.
But again, if I may chime in on that, if you consider the situation in Jamaica and how the characteristics of situations where pensions get into trouble, usually there's not a private capital market, there's not a vibrant financial system. That's not the situation in Jamaica. Now, the key thing right now is to support as much as possible the creation of an asset base, a domestic asset base, that is available for pension funds to invest in, for pensioners to look at towards the future.
And that's an interesting opportunity for the government that they've been taking on. We look at things like Wigtown and the divestment of Wigtown. We're hearing about the highway coming up in just a little while. They're doing an IPO on that. And so we're looking at different kind of models to get average people to participate in the financial conversation. Your thoughts on that?
Well, the capital markets and the stock market and investing in through into equities, in initial public offers, in divesting and outsourcing of government of Jamaica entities. It's all positive. It's owning a piece of the pie. It's understanding how business works. It's financial literacy. It's people sharing in the profits of businesses. You know, because I think Jamaicans on a whole need to understand, in order for them to work hard and they have work hard, earn their money, but they have to allow their money to work hard for them also. And it's not necessarily going to work hard in a savings account. Mm-hmm. You have to have a diversified portfolio of assets across stock markets, across bonds, across real estate. So your money really works hard for you, so that you, at the end of the day, you have a sustainable into your pension years. You do have a nest egg that you have built up, and you're sustainable.
Well, Keith, you are someone who your day job is in the capital markets, right? Yes. But your recently acquired job as president of PSOJ, how do you see the role of the PSOJ in helping to build this economy?
Well, we're focused on a couple of areas. We're building on the platform set by the previous administration of the PSOJ on the whole, which is leadership. One, top of the agenda is crime, making it a national conversation and not a political conversation. You know, it's a crisis. We are in a crisis when it comes to crime. Our crime rate is at 47 murders per 100,000, coming down from 60. That's not normal. The average in the Caribbean and Latin America is 16 per 100,000. We have normalized this above 1,000 level of murders a year. We have to recognize and understand that we are in a crisis situation. The same way we're in an economic crisis and we got together as a country and we're able to stabilize ourselves, have macroeconomic stability, low interest rates, we can do the same with crime, but it takes a national effort to do so. And the PSOJ must stand behind this being a national effort and minimize the political kind of divisiveness around it.
But Keith, the question is then going to be, what is that going to look like in a real and practical way? Are you going to be watchdog? Are you going to be financier of the projects? Are you going to be consultant? Should the idea generation be coming out of the PSOJ? We know that the requirement is there for the public-private partnership, but what will it tangibly look like?
Or the past president of the PSOJ, Mr. Howard Mitchell, was calling for a national kind of broad consultation, but it may take some kind of oversight mechanism. So therefore, you know, we have Partnership for Prosperity, that grouping. How is it that they get together and provide that oversight and pull Jamaica together? You know, there in the toolkit to fight crime, you have suppression, which is state of emergencies. You have building capacity and capability of the security forces. You know, and be able to investigate DNA, forensic, all of these things. More police, more, and you know, and I'm saying the scientific way to really investigate. And then you have social intervention. These are the three prongs of dealing with crime. So therefore, what's that right formula? While you deal with suppression to really take down that murder rate, what are you doing to build capacity so the police and the army and the security forces can really manage what we have on our plate?
So the role of the private sector is to ask the right questions of our
facilitate
officials?
as much as possible that conversation so we get on the same page. We have heard the Prime Minister say that the SOEs are part of a toolkit which they want to use over time for the next 5 to 7 years, he said. You know, at various places where there are hotspots, where you really have too many murders, you have too many violence producers, take down the murder rate while you build your capacity so that the police can effectively manage the caseload that they have.
But the government's going to be knocking on your door to pay for certain things. They're going to be knocking on your door to ensure that all of your cameras are in the Jamaica Eye network.
That's why we have taxes. We pay taxes.
Yes.
Right.
People are going to be pressing against the private sector and saying, are you willing to put your money where your mouth is?
Of course, the private sector has stepped up in the past and will step up. You know, everyone has a corporate social responsibility framework, and I'm sure if we galvanize the nation around crime, the private sector will be there leading and providing whatever support that we can. But we need to make it a national conversation, and I think it's just a matter of building trust between all parties.
And crime's already costing you?
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's actually a very, very important point.
Let's pick it up on the other side of the break, that cost of crime to the private sector, to the country, after the break.
Internal audit. Internal audit service is vital when organizations aim to achieve reliable financial reports and regulatory compliance, navigating risks, streamlining operations, and promoting stakeholder confidence. The benefits of a high-quality internal audit are limitless, especially when you secure yours from a firm with deep industry experience, exposure to hundreds of organizations, dedicated professionals, and proven methodologies. Whether you're looking to establish an internal audit function, attain or maintain compliance with various regulations, mitigate your risk of fraud, or gain an overall assessment of your internal controls, you can count on Dodgen Global for reliable and timely business solutions. We've helped organizations nationwide and across industries to establish internal control structures, create an internal audit function, or improve an existing one, and maintain regulatory compliance. We provide ongoing education as regulations and public perceptions change. We are trusted advisors for management and boards. External auditors can be confident in our work and its results. Let Dodgen Global be a turnkey solution for your organization. Our team can help you make smarter, more effective decisions. Let's have a conversation. Contact us at email info@dodgen.global. Website https://dodgen.global.
It's the only show that traces the steps of professionals.
From first and second form, I was involved in some club, some activity.
Then gives information on exactly how to get into that same career.
You do need a good grasp of English.
And now you can branch out into whatever area you want to.
Tune in every Tuesday at 8 p.m. for Career Moves and catch up on all our episodes at batvja.com.
Welcome back to On Point. We're continuing our exciting conversation with our new IMF rep to Jamaica and the president and co-chair of the Economic Policy Oversight Committee. Karim, you wanted to come in earlier about the cost of crime to Jamaica, because as an outsider, I mean, you're not a citizen yet, but maybe not at
He says yes.
I keep waiting on that passport. No, look, I mean, I think that's an important, very important issue to consider and to talk about, because the cost of crime to the economy is not trivial. From preliminary analytical work that I've done looks at simply what would happen if we were to cut the murder rate, the homicide rate in Jamaica by half.
What's that finding?
To reach world average. That would structurally increase growth by 0.5 percentage point, structurally.
Just that act?
Just that act alone. Now consider what the secondary effects of homicides are on families, on the ability of children to be educated properly, to grow in an environment that allows them to reach their full cognitive powers and capacities. Consider the effects of corruption in communities. All of that is unmeasured. So it is not a trivial thing. Now, the beautiful thing is that the structural impediments that have resulted in lower access to finance in many of the communities across Jamaica are much the same that have resulted in the situations that we're seeing across the island. If you were to deal with the SME financing gap, as the IFC calls it, there's this database, the IFC has this database called the Small and Medium-Sized Enterprise Financing Gap. Yeah. They estimate around 2.6 billion US in pent-up demand by SMEs in Jamaica. If you were to deal with that, US, if you were to deal with that concurrently with crime, with just homicides, right, you would increase growth structurally by 1 percentage point. So these are the kinds of things that I think behooves not just the public sector but the private sector to work together in tackling.
And the only members that perhaps smile at this crime conversation are the security firms, and I'm sure they don't smile either, because all of your members, the cost of operations, when you look at their budgets and what they spend on security guards and camera systems and alarms and
not ability to run shifts and to have people work through the, through the night. I mean, it's a challenge, you know what I mean? But we can get there, you know. We just need a fixity of purpose, as we had with the economic reform program. We need people. We need the same political will that we had through over both administrations to agree and say this is the way forward, and let us really look to deal with the crime monster and really have to deal with people. So therefore, the social intervention piece, can't stand alone, but it has to be there to provide the young unattached male with hope. That there is hope for them, that they can start a little small business, that they can get trained at heart, that they can get a job. We need to provide that hope, because right now they're not seeing the alternatives. You know what I mean? And we see the success stories when we get to them and we get the ability to change your mindset. What can happen? Jamaican people are resilient, brilliant people, right? All we need to do is just to work on the social intervention piece, work on minimizing through suppression the murder rate, while we build the capacity of the force to really be able to manage what we have.
Because, Kareem, I mean, you coming from outside of Jamaica, you'd have seen many structural reforms take place. One of the casualties of economic depression is that you tend to lose a generation or two of people to productivity. Is not so? And then the other question is, can we truly address our homicide and major crime problem without public order?
There's no doubt that productive capacity is lost when you have economic crisis, when you have public health crises, when you have natural disasters, and similarly in communities across the world, not just in Jamaica, when you have significant crime problems. And that is why it is extremely important to maintain the current climate of good policy frameworks. We were talking earlier about the Bank of Jamaica law, which enshrines into law the way an independent central bank operates. There's a discussion around the Fiscal Council, which is envisioned to enshrine into law not just the 60% of GDP financial fiscal responsibility law in 25-26 for public debt, but also the way a discussion around budgets occurs, which is already, by the way, very advanced in Jamaica. Now the question is, how do you get to a point where you've anchored your policy over the medium term sufficiently in a robust way so that you have room to tackle all of these things, right? You have room not just on the private sector balance sheets, but also on the public sector balance sheet.
Yeah, so
what about the public order issue?
Making over the reform program and making the fiscal reforms and the success we have had, making it sustainable. And that's what the independent central bank will provide, that's what the Fiscal Council will provide. That is what the disaster risk insurance would provide, ensuring that we have a sustainable framework going forward, that we can, we can continue with our fiscal rules to reduce our debt to GDP, increase the room for the government to spend in these areas where we need support: crime, health, infrastructure, water. All of these areas that we have ignored because we ran a terrible economy over the last 40 years.
So I want to find out how the mechanism will work. 4 entities that are to be at play: the IMF, a central bank that is now independent, a Ministry of Finance, and an EPOC.
Yes.
How will those 4 players work in the financial future of Jamaica, say the next year or 2 years?
Well, for the next year, we know that the life of EPOC has been extended for another year. This is until the Fiscal Council is in place, yes. The legislation is in place, and the regulations are in place that embed it. And secondly, and when the central bank the legislation and regulations are in place, then we know they are in place and operational, staffed, and up and running. The central bank is already staffed. No, it has the legitimate central bank independence. In other words, they have full responsibility for inflation targeting, for managing inflation, And the Fiscal Council will have the responsibility for looking at budgets, looking at how sound the plans are, the government of Jamaica's budget and fiscal plans are, to ensure that we remain sustainable and we remain consistent with our fiscal rules of taking down our debt.
So the council stress tests the budget?
Yes, man, and they have a technical capacity. EPOC, we're all volunteers. So we're reviewing reports on a monthly basis. The Bank of Jamaica reports in, the Ministry of Finance.
But you're also on the corner too.
We're on the corner because we have to tell, we have to get Jamaican people engaged at all levels around why this thing is important, that you don't spend more than you earn, because if you don't spend more than you earn, you get into debt and you get into problem. And so we're saying we have to run a sustainable country, sustainable financial affairs of our country must be run in a very responsible manner.
And how does Kareem and the IMF fit in all of that?
Well, Kareem, you explain that.
Since your audience is, I think much of your audience is a business community, so I'll use business speak, which I'm more comfortable with than fund speak, so to speak. So look, the fund has three main activities. Our core business lines are effectively lending when there are crises, which are programs. We do what is called surveillance, which is sort of every 12 month or every 24 month, depending on the country, health check of the policies, of the framework for the policies, of the direction of the policies.
And how often will that happen for Jamaica?
So the last one was in 2018. The next one, I believe, is slotted to be in March or April 2020. So very shortly. And then the last business line that we spend, actually, that much of fund staff spend a lot of time and effort on, is what's called capacity development or technical assistance. We've been involved in all three business lines so far in Jamaica over the last 6.5 years, because the Article 4 consultations are ongoing even during programs. Technical assistance and capacity development has been ongoing. I myself personally have been involved in at least 3 of those during the program in the last 2.5 years, and that will continue in areas such as the Fiscal Council, in areas relating to developing markets, developing the FX market, developing debt markets, and any other areas that are identified by the authorities. The most important thing is that the fund plays the same role in Jamaica that it does in its 189 member countries, which is a trusted advisor that comes and has a conversation about.
I still have a question. I just want to find out one thing on that whole operations. One of the things that we were able to do well with the IMF program is that across administrations we were singing the same song.
Yes.
How confident are you? How comfortable are you that the kind of progress that we have made, that the kind of structures that have been put in place will withstand a change in administration if that happens?
I believe with the fiscal rules in place, that is enshrined in law, 60% debt to GDP, 9% wages and salaries of GDP. There are fiscal rules. There is a framework in place, a legal framework. There is, a reporting framework is in place. For example, just last week, a new fiscal policy paper was tabled in Parliament, and this is around updating a supplemental budget to see where we are, and recasting projections based on where the economy is. You know what I mean? So therefore, there are frameworks that are in place that protect us.
Accountability.
But quite important is the Fiscal Council, central bank independence, and the contingency around disaster risk, and ensuring that we can sustain natural disasters, hurricanes, etc. So we need to make our country sustainable. I think we have a legal framework in place. I believe that when the fiscal rules in place, if you break those fiscal rules, you're breaking the law.
And there are consequences.
Right.
Well, I want to follow, it's something similar to what Patria has asked, but I want to approach it in a different way, because you're the PSOJ president.
Yes, sir.
You are the IMF rep, and it is very likely, high probability, that you both will be here for the next round of elections. Should you start talking to the political people now about how that is going to be dealt with when the silly season comes?
Yes. Well, most definitely. I think you just started the conversation, so we can start signaling it from now that don't get too silly in the silly season. Stay within the rules. Balance that budget, hit our targets because that's worked for us. We can see. We're able to spend $20 billion on national security last year in building out infrastructure, fixing the police stations, buying the equipment we need, buying the cars that the police need, buying the bikes that the police need, because we have remained fiscally responsible and take down our debt levels. Interest rates have come down. That's why we can afford to spend that kind of money on the things that we need as a country. So we get crime under control. We need to focus on education. We need to focus on health. We need to focus on water. Too much people suffering from water, but because we ignored water for many, many years. We didn't deal with it as a long-term thing. We just fix and do quick fixes and didn't do it. So therefore, in the same way we fix our economy, we need to fix these other areas where we have crises because we never manage our economy well. If we didn't manage our economy well before, we wouldn't have all these other issues.
So how do you deal with the conversation?
Well, it's funny, right? Because I'm Egyptian American, so I have no idea what silly season looked like. No, I mean, in all seriousness, look, I think the beautiful thing about Jamaica right at this moment, and the unique thing about Jamaica in this moment is that there is this buy-in that Keith spoke about at every level of society. Once you set up the institutions of an independent central bank, once you set up the institution of a fiscal council, it's going to become very difficult for any national conversation to draw outside of the lines of what is being discussed by those institutions, what is being developed by those institutions in terms of a policy thrust. And that, I think, is the secret sauce, right? If you think about where Canada was in the 90s as far as the fiscal situation. And you consider that once that political will, that public will came into play, it became impossible for decades for any government to run on large deficits. I think that's where we're on the cusp.
And so the future of Jamaica is very much dependent on those measures.
Those institutions, putting those institutions.
Welcome again to Jamaica.
Thank you very much.
Keith,
thank you.
You have your work cut out for you. A long road ahead, but congratulations. All right, folks, we take a break right here on Point. When we come back, we'll talk some more.
Crow Jamaica Risk Management Services, RMS. Risk management has become indispensable to a company's business operations and management strategy in this complex environment nowadays. Crow Jamaica risk management experts help to turn every risk into an opportunity. We are experienced in providing customized solutions to manage risks and increase transparency and accountability of the companies. Our core services include internal audit, internal control review, corporate governance, corporate compliance, etc. Our team can help you make smarter, more effective decisions. Let's have a conversation. Contact us at email people@crowjm.com, website www.crowjm.com.
It's season 12, and Wealth Magazine Business Access is here to keep you business savvy. With an impressive mix of some of Jamaica's most inspiring business moguls, we continue to keep Jamaica informed, empowered, and ready to dominate. Tune in Sundays at 5 p.m. only on BATV.
You're watching
Business Access.
Business Access.
Business Access.
Business Access TV.
Serious about business.
Welcome back to On Point. Now, the first supplementary estimate was tabled in the House of Representatives on Tuesday for this financial year, with the government planning to spend an extra $50.15 billion. What's that money going to be spent on? Take a look at the numbers.
The total amount the government plans to spend for the 2019-2020 fiscal year is $853.39 billion. The total increase in the overall budget is in recurrent or housekeeping spending, which is proposed to move from $731.12 billion to $781.28 billion. The capital budget remains the same at $72.1 billion, with some reallocation of funds within ministries. Public debt servicing gets the largest increase in recurrent allocation of $45.49 billion. Among the portfolio areas, the Ministry of National Security's housekeeping budget moves from $24.6 billion to $26.1 billion. The Ministry of Education, Youth and Information will receive an increase of approximately $1 billion, moving its total to $107.5 billion. $1 billion has been added to the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation's $7.26 billion recurrent budget, and the Local Government and Community Development Ministry is receiving $448.8 million more, bringing its total to $12.1 billion. On the capital side, $5 billion in additional allocation has been made under the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation for spending on construction and improvement to arterial roads under the Major Infrastructure Development Program MIDP.
And our on-point team hit the streets and asked, are you feeling the benefits of a more stable Jamaican economy?
The effects of a stable economy is not necessarily trickling down to the individual persons, and that is where the greatest, while you might see it in the macro, in the micro it is not trickling down to the individual small men. So there's, in some sector you might see that there are improvements, but on the level of the individual man that walks in the street, the individual person who takes the bus, the people that who basically at the middle income bracket is not necessarily feeling so.
No, it doesn't seem that way. The US dollar is keep going, it's not dropping, so I mean there's no positivity in that.
No, I don't feel it. It don't come in my direction.
No. No. Like I don't know, I think like everything just seems like a struggle these days. Like even, all right, so for example, if you're trying to stabilize yourself and you want to go to the bank and, you know, try something, like everything is just so much work. It's so complicated, more than it needs to be. You need to get so much references from this person, that person. So it's kind of difficult for a lot of different people. So, I mean, I can say that there are changes being made, but there's still a whole lot of work to be done, and it's still kind of rough out there.
I don't have a problem with Jamaica economy. I have always survived because I've always tried to help myself. So if it's up, I'll be up too, and if it's down, I'll be down. But I never at any time wait on anybody to help me.
Well, I think that the currency has not been doing very well. I mean, I think we're probably nearing 140 now. So you would think that a stable economy, our dollar would have recapitalized, but it's not. So we're actually seeing the effects of our dollar going down. So that's not good. And if sooner or later, it's bound to result in some level of price increases all around. Also, crime. You would think that better economy, stable dollar would have a greater impact on our crime. Our crime has actually skyrocketed. You know, I've heard more people say in the past year that they're more afraid of just living in Jamaica. So we have not reaped the benefits where crime is concerned.
Yes, I am. Because I'm getting more lunch money.
Quite honestly, I don't know if it's more stable. Personally, it doesn't feel like, because more expenses, and I'm not spending any differently. But then again, yeah, more expenses. Everything increased except my pay. But I guess in terms of businesses, they are driving, I guess. But then you look at the industry, it's the people getting laid off from work more. So is that really a stability, or people suffering because of it to make it more stable?
Right now, we still the minimum wage, you know, and it no move. We not benefit. Prosperity not reach we. You don't see the big rich man them. Porsche store open now, you know. You just walk in and buy a Porsche and come out. The Benz things turn up, the Jaguar thing turn up. poor people still feel it.
Yeah, that's good because this good, business is good.
I'm 36. I'm a husband, a manager, and still very good looking. In 2 hours, I have the most important meeting of my life. But first, it's time to play. The new Suzuki Vitara.
The business community has suffered tremendously due to extortion. Some have not just lost their businesses, their jobs, but lost their lives. This is extremely impactful to the growth of our country and to the progress of our people. We are our brother's keeper. Let's put a stop to this. No more use of force. No more use of fear. No more extortion. No more.
Well, that was an interesting one. I know that
Yes.
one was straight up your alley, being the numbers man, being the accountant.
I think that we've made a lot of progress as a country. I think we have much stronger institutions than many of the Caribbean countries, other Caribbean countries out there. So I think we're on a good path. The only thing that we need to do is ensure that we understand we're not at the finish line yet. And as Keith and Camille said, we need to ensure we stay the path. We need to build the stronger institutions and make sure it's sustainable, because we're not sustainable yet. We still have a way to go. We still have 1 or 2 generations that really have been lost through the economic crisis that we saw. We have educational problems, we have public order problems. Once we can fix those things, then I think we'll be in a better place.
I love the way that things have become more participatory.
Yeah.
Where all areas of society have gotten involved in the economic conversation. I think that's going to augur well for us in the economic future. So it's not just about government doing what they do, and then 5-10 years down the road, we're kind of dealing with the consequences. And I think one of the reasons it's so important that we have the institutions like EPOC, but also a very strong opposition, is that they can be the harbor shark, they can be the watchdog, they can, before the button is pressed, to be able to spend the country's money recklessly, that people can kind of hold people accountable. And so I think I celebrate that from the IMF program and the role that EPOC was able to play, but also the opposition and also civic society. And my hope is that going forward, we continue to play that role, because it's our money.
Yeah, everybody has a role to play. I mean, we definitely need a strong opposition. Coming into 2020, it's highly likely that we can have an election next year. My greatest fear is that we need to ensure that we don't fall back into the situation where the politics is trumping the economics. We don't want to get back there, or we're going to have a major, major problem.
I know one of the things that I'm happy that happened, and perhaps it is, I've noticed it, the televised PAC meetings, these televised checks and balances and stress testing things that are put on the table, and asking questions about the accounts on both sides of the divide, and defending the positions that you take, and people being able to sit at home and watch it and say yes or no, and write letters to the editor and make comments and call into talking shows, I really think has done us well.
Well, let me tell you something. One thing a lot of people don't understand about Jamaica. Jamaica has one of the best free press situations in the world, in terms of press freedom. Do you think is not many countries, even developed countries, people can go on the radio and talk like how they're talking?
And I love it. I love it, because it's our country, it's our money, and it's the betterment of our nation. Gotta say thanks to the folks who make the show happen every week. You did it again. Thank you so much to the hardworking crew. Thanks also to the sponsors and you at home for tuning in week after week. I'm Patria Kay.
And I'm Dennis Strong.
See you next time on Point.
On Point was brought to you by Crow Jamaica.
We are back with another exciting, innovative, and inspiring season.
It takes a lot of stick-to-itiveness, being consistent and persistent in whatever you're doing. That's the bottom line.
Business exists to add value to people's lives. And if we're not doing that, might as well lock down the store and just call it a day.
It's a season 3 of Creating Wealth, Mondays at 8 p.m. on Business Access TV.
They say it takes a village to raise a child, but the world will one day need the leadership of that child. The time you spend with your child matters. It stimulates their minds and shapes the way they act. Talk with your